So, we've got this girl, she can sing, she can dance, seriously talented, but her biggest dream? To serve in the army. She's got this burning desire to be a soldier, to protect her country. But like they say, good times don't last forever. War comes on fast, real fast, and before you know it, it's over just as quick. North and South are at peace. She packs her bags and heads to Seoul, the big city, her land of opportunity. She's picturing this amazing new life. But surprise, surprise, reality hits her hard. The dream she had in her head is a mile away from the actual grind. To keep a roof over her head and food on the table, she ends up slinging dishes at a diner. One day, she sees her coworkers scarfing down leftover food from the customers. It just breaks her. She just can't understand it. This isn't what she signed up for. This isn't her dream. Serving food is not what she went to war for. So Kim, that's her name, Kim, decides she needs to find a better paying job. So she heads to a nightclub to hustle for some serious cash. But let's be honest, it's boring. It's a tough gig and she just doesn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. It is what it is. Fast forward to today. She's visiting this total sleazeball loan shark to pay off some debt, and this guy's safe is loaded with goodies. Interesting goodies. The loan shark takes one look at Kim, sees she's easy on the eyes, and suddenly he's all over her. He starts talking about this drug he has, saying it'll make her happy. He starts getting handsy, real fast. It looks like he's about to have his way with her when, out of nowhere, his goons drag in a woman. A beaten up woman. Like, face covered in blood, beaten up. Kim takes a closer look and, it's one of her coworkers from the diner. She spots the needle marks on the coworker's arm, and it clicks. She realizes this is what happens when you get hooked on the loan shark's drugs. This is rock bottom. That's the last straw for Kim. She throws her respect out the window and turns on the loan shark, cussing him out bad. He slaps her across the face. Then he tries to force himself on her. But Kim ain't having it. She kicks him with everything she has, grabs the gun from his safe, and backs off. The loan shark just laughs. You gonna shoot me? He taunts. He has no idea Kim is a trained soldier, that she could outshoot him any day of the week. Then, he pulls a fast one. He throws a hot water kettle at her, then charges. She's caught off guard, but she's still got the gun. She has to make a choice right now. She hesitates for a second, but then pulls the trigger. One shot, right between the eyes. And just like that, the loan shark is down. In that moment, everything becomes crystal clear to her. It is not about what is wrong or right. It's what you do and you don't do. You have to survive. No one is going to save you, so you have to save yourself. The loan shark's goons grab Kim's diner coworker and use her as a human shield. One of them is screaming, so scared he wets himself. Kim throws the gun down. She tells the diner's coworker to grab the cash from the safe. And so Kim and the coworker become a thieving duo, ripping off loan sharks one heist at a time. They're racking up some serious wins, but you know how it goes. Eventually their luck runs out. After a string of robberies, things go south fast. During one heist, the coworker ends up getting killed. Kim is now public enemy number one. The cops are after her, and she has nowhere to go. She pulls out the gun, the one with the last bullet. She's about to end it all, to check out. Out of nowhere, a guy shows up. He recognizes her from the news. The most wanted woman in the area. You'd expect him to be scared, or at least surprised, but he's totally chill. Kim points the gun right at him. He doesn't even flinch. He just asks, how does it feel to be a killer? She stays silent. The guy then says why he is there, and he gets right to the point. He wants her to join his crew. He wants her to be part of something bigger than just stealing from loan sharks. He is telling her there is another way to make more money and to be powerful. You could change the world, he says. You could be a hero. Kim is listening. She lowers the gun a bit and asks, what do you consider a big score? What is the mission? The guy holds up 4 fingers. 4 trillion won. Kim has nothing to lose. She says, what the hell, let's do this. She gets a wild look in her eyes. The guy introduces himself as the professor. Last time, Kim, now going by Tokyo, joined this mysterious professor and his ragtag crew. So, Tokyo asks the professor what subject he even teaches. The professor's like, hold my beer, and introduces her to the rest of his students. And get this, almost all of them were recruited the same way she was. First lesson. Names are a no-no. For safety reasons, they can't use their real names. They need code names. The professor is telling them to use code names, and they're using city names. Whatever city they want to retire to is the code name they have to use. The first one up is Rio. Even though he's just a kid, he's a whiz when it comes to hacking. Seriously, this dude can hack anything. Second is Denver. He is described as pretty simple and is very good at fighting, a real brute. Third up is Moscow. He's Denver's dad, an old-school miner. He's a master of digging in tunnels. Next, we've got Nairobi. This girl can lie and disguise herself like it's nobody's business. She's a natural. Then comes the 2 big fellas, Helsinki and Oslo. These guys are ex-mobsters. Just the 2 of them wiped out their entire old gang. They're tough. The 6th member is Berlin. This guy is a master of crowd control. He knows how to create a mood, if you know what I mean. Oh, and he's also a wanted criminal. And then there is Tokyo, which has already been talked about. So, with everyone now rocking a city name, the professor lays down the law. He reiterates what the mission is. The goal is to steal a whopping 4 trillion won and vanish without a trace. But here's the catch. No one can get hurt. It has to be peaceful. The professor's telling them, everyone in the country is going to be watching this. We will be the heroes of the people. But here's the $1 million question. Which bank has that kind of cash lying around? The professor dramatically pulls back a red cloth, revealing the Royal Mint. And the mission is not to rob the bank, but the money printing station where they print money. Fast forward 5 months, and the Royal Mint looks as peaceful as ever. The only difference? Today, there's a group of students visiting. The director, Young Min, is a sleazy old man, a pervert, and when a new employee, Mi-sun, shows up, he jumps on her immediately. He comes at her like a hungry wolf. Mi-sun tells him to chill out, that now is not the right time to start making moves. Mi-sun says she has something important to tell him. At the same time, the student group is arriving for their tour. A girl stands in front of the Royal Mint, taking selfies on her phone. Her classmates see her and rush over, wanting to join in on the fun. The girl looks annoyed, but she reluctantly snaps a photo. After the picture, the other students start leaving, and a guy comes up, asking her to send him the photo, but he is shot down. Everyone enters the Royal Mint, led by their teacher. Meanwhile, Tokyo and Nairobi are right outside the doors, disguised as students. They have blended in and are ready to go. Berlin and the others are on their way, checking their guns and putting on their masks. The target? The Royal Mint's armored car. The armored car is about to cross the bridge when 2 members of the crew prepare to go into action. Rio pushes a button, activating the bridge's lifting mechanism. The armored car is forced to stop. Rio then presses another button. After a bunch of loud screeching noises, the communication system is down. A thick fog rolls in, blinding everyone. A car slowly pulls up, and a person in a red jumpsuit and white mask steps out, firing a gun into the air. The guards start panicking, and the other crew members come out, quickly taking control of the situation. Some of the guards and the driver are locked in the back of the truck, while the crew members quickly change into their uniforms. But why only some of the guards? Why not all of them? Because they need to leave a few familiar faces to avoid raising suspicion. But even with that, getting past the Royal Mint's front gate won't be easy. The guard wants to verify Berlin's identity. Luckily, Rio is right behind the truck. Faking identities is a piece of cake for him. Piece of cake! Inside the Royal Mint, Young Min and Mi-sun are having a heated argument. It turns out, my son is pregnant. My son is putting the screws to Young Min. She's pushing him hard for a quickie divorce and wants that official wife title. But Young Min is having none of it. He hits her with this bombshell. He had a vasectomy over a decade ago. 10 years? So that bun in her oven? Absolutely not his. He's basically calling her out, thinking she's trying to blackmail him with a fake pregnancy. You think you can extort me with this baby? Not a chance, he probably thinks. Meanwhile, outside, things are moving fast. Berlin flashes his official-looking ID, and the guards let the crew through after a quick once-over. Rio seizes the moment and kills the alarm sneaky, clearing the path for Tokyo and Nairobi to slip inside. And then, a little side story. This girl is in the bathroom, video chatting with her boyfriend. He gets all hot and bothered, drops the "you're so sexy" line, and then has the nerve to ask her to point the camera down there. Back to our feuding couple, Young Min and Mi-sun are still going at it. But things start to shift a little. Mi-sun gets a bit more reasonable. She proposes a weird compromise. He's sterile, she's faking pregnancy, but they both have needs, right? She wants to use that to be equal and leave. She is basically willing to go along with the charade just to achieve equality. Young Min suddenly tries to smooth things over, grabbing Mi-sun's arm to stop her from going. Just then, disaster strikes inside the building. Nairobi gets busted. She's carrying a gun. Tokyo jumps into action, taking immediate action to prevent the alarm. She is quick to solve the problem. It's a mess, but they're in too deep to back down. Everyone goes with the flow. The team whips out their weapons and starts firing into the air just to make a statement, probably. At the same time, Berlin and his crew kick off their operation. Despite the constant gunfire, nobody gets hurt. The crew fans out, grabs everyone they can find, and starts herding all the hostages into one location. The girl from the bathroom hears the commotion, steps outside to see what's going on, and her jaw just drops. She can't believe what she's seeing. The Royal Mint is in complete chaos. And outside, the professor is pacing, a nervous wreck, waiting for everything to go according to plan. Inside, all the hostages are now crammed into the main hall. Tokyo scans the crowd, looking for their target. The professor is trying to stay calm because this is the most critical part. And who is the person they're after? It's the girl from the bathroom. Tokyo spots her quickly, thank goodness. Rio gets to work, activating the Mint's security lockdown. The giant doors start to slowly grind shut, sealing them all inside. The girl is grabbed and brought to the hall, where she is forced to be with everyone else. Her eyes are covered with a red cloth, just like all the other hostages. Then, Berlin steps forward and dramatically pulls off his mask. This guy is in charge of the whole operation. His first order of business? Calm everyone down. He tells the hostages not to panic, that no one will get hurt if they just follow instructions. He lays it on thick, saying that even though they're hostages right now, they'll be witnesses to history when they get out. He then asks for all phones and papers to be collected. Suddenly, the landline in the hall starts ringing. Young Min says it's the call from headquarters. Answering the call is necessary to keep suspicions at bay. Mi-sun gives him a little nudge, telling him not to say anything stupid. Without hesitation, Berlin grabs Mi-sun and drags her over to answer the phone. He tells her to relax, that as long as she doesn't cause trouble, she'll be fine. So, Mi-sun reluctantly picks up. The headquarters is asking why they've locked down the building. Mi-sun says there's a problem with the internet connection. The headquarters starts chewing her out, and she loses it and gets snappy with them. Berlin is pleased with her performance. He escorts Mi-sun back to her spot. But not everyone is in the hall. Rio, Denver, and Moscow are downstairs, trying to break into the vault. When the vault door finally cracks open, the three of them are ecstatic. They are overjoyed to see the money. It is just unbelievable for them. Berlin gets the signal and tells the professor they're ready to move on. The professor starts the countdown. Young Min breathes a sigh of relief. It's almost over. These people will leave at last. The doors slowly start to open, alarms start to blare throughout the Royal Mint, and Young Min takes a sneak peek by lifting his blindfold slightly. Then he realizes something is wrong, and he pulls his blindfold back down when he sees Berlin walking toward him. Berlin rips off his blindfold without hesitation. Young Min just locked eyes with Berlin, and he knows he screwed up big time. He clenches his eyes shut because he understands the rule. If they see your face, you're basically a dead man. But he had already seen him. How is Berlin going to let him off the hook? But here's the catch, the professor was super clear. No casualties. All this leaving they're talking about, it's a fake. They're pretending to escape, but the cops at the entrance are going to force them back inside, creating that classic rock in a hard place situation. So, when they walk out, they happen to run into a police car on patrol. They do exactly what they planned, start firing into the air. Now, the plan was to fire off a few rounds and then head back inside. But things went sideways. The cops fire back. Rio gets totally freaked out by this. He is shaking and just freezes. He's scared stiff. A bullet hits him. Then Nairobi loses it and instantly raises her gun, aiming straight at the police. Tokyo is on it and quickly pulls her back. Nairobi is losing her cool, but Tokyo knows the deal. If there's bloodshed, their whole plan goes down the drain. Tokyo throws a few smoke bombs, covering their retreat and suppressing the police fire. Luckily, Rio was wearing a bulletproof vest, so he's not mortally wounded. The news that the Royal Mint has been robbed is spreading like wildfire. The government is scrambling, having emergency meetings. This is unprecedented, people. If they don't handle this carefully, they risk becoming an international laughingstock. Enter Wu Jin, the head negotiator from the National Police Agency. She's now in charge of this whole mess. Wu Jin was on vacation when she got the news, and she was totally shocked. She's dealt with tons of crises, big and small, but this is the first time she's ever seen a bank robbery like this. Inside the mint, Berlin is ordering the hostages to remove their blindfolds. He then gives each of them a red jumpsuit. From now on, they're all in this together. They're a family, and they need to stick together to get through this. To communicate with the professor outside, they went through a lot of trouble. Cable from the bathroom to connect not only phone calls but also surveillance cameras inside the Royal Mint. 3 hours after the robbery began, Wu Jin arrives at the scene. The police have set up camp outside the mint. Captain Cha from the Special Forces is ready to go. He says he only needs 5 minutes to turn the situation around. But Wu Jin says no. There are an estimated 50 hostages inside. How can they guarantee their safety if there's a firefight? Wu Jin wants to take the peaceful negotiation route to resolve the problem with minimal casualties. Captain Cha isn't happy, and he tries to goad her by bringing up Wu Jin's ex-husband. Her ex is a politician. If it wasn't for that relationship, Wu Jin wouldn't be in her current position. She's heard it all before, and she's immune to it. But there's one thing she needs to make clear. She is currently in a legal battle with her ex-husband for custody of their child. She also makes it clear that all who come at her by making accusations related to her ex will die. She is cold. Captain Cha's face darkens. After the communication system is set up, Wu Jin connects to the phone in the Royal Mint. Berlin doesn't handle the negotiations, so he transfers the call to the professor. The professor is using a voice changer, so the police can't identify him by his voice. Wu Jin is no amateur when it comes to negotiations. With just one question, she asks if they need a helicopter or not. They use a simple trick to gauge the number of people in the robbery group. But the professor isn't easily fooled. Instead, he shifts all the blame onto the police. They just wanted to take some money and run, but the police blocked all their exits, trapping them in the mint, creating a no-win situation and implicating all the innocent hostages. Wu Jin seizes this opportunity to make a request. First, release the students who are inside. They can't let the future of the country be ruined like that, Wu Jin argues. The professor doesn't budge. He tells her to send the helicopter first. Wu Jin is firm. If you want the helicopter, you have to release the students first. There are too many hostages to control. Releasing a few students wouldn't make much difference. The professor says he needs to reconsider. He is correct. The hostages are too many and too hard to control for just the 4 of them. It must be a trap, and the police think there are only 4 robbers. The viewers are also quick to point out that Wu Jin is smart. It looks like she's in control of the situation, like she's about to make the robbers say how many people are on the team, so she knows. But what if the bad guys did it on purpose to set her up? Before she can figure it out, the special forces take action. The top dogs feel that since there are only 4 of them, a quick victory is the way to go. No need to drag this out. Wu Jin warns them that it could be a trap, but the leaders don't care. The media is all over this. The higher-ups are putting on the pressure. A swift victory is the only option. She's free to go home. Even though she's feeling down, she gets a little comfort from her online friend. They set up a meeting at a cafe nearby. Little does Wu Jin know, her online buddy is the professor himself. The professor has anticipated every possible scenario and prepared for everything. Wu Jin is part of his plan. Not just Wu Jin, even the special forces are accounted for. Wu Jin meeting the professor means that the special forces have taken full control and can attack the Royal Mint at any time. Berlin is ready to give the special forces a lesson they won't forget. The Royal Mint has 5 entrances: the main door, the roof, the underground parking garage, and the emergency exit near the loading dock. The main door and roof are the most obvious. They'll probably come in from the other 3. Facing enemies from all sides, what should they do? Those jumpsuits they handed out earlier are about to come in handy. The hostages are wearing the same jumpsuits and masks as the robbers. They're now all holding heavy weapons. The special forces won't dare make a move. To avoid any mistakes, they are also uploading a video online. Young Min and the schoolgirl Anne, one speaking Korean, one speaking English, say that robbers and hostages are wearing the same thing. The weapons the hostages are using are just toy guns, but it's hard to tell the difference. To minimize unnecessary sacrifice, please don't do anything hasty. The schoolgirl Anne is an important character in this video. She is the daughter of the US ambassador. The leaders have received instructions from above to accept negotiations in order to ensure the safety of the ambassador's daughter. The special forces immediately retreat. Berlin shares the good news with everyone, but for the hostages, this isn't necessarily good news. The special forces were there to rescue them. Their retreat means they won't be rescued. They're under someone else's control. They have no choice but to bow down and reluctantly celebrate with Berlin. At the same time, Wu Jin has received a call demanding that she quickly return to continue negotiating with the robbers. Everything is under the professor's control. After seeing Wu Jin off, the professor closes up shop and heads straight to the control room. Phase 1 is a success. Next up is Phase 2. They want 4 trillion won in cash. Banks definitely don't have that much cash in reserve, and neither does the Royal Mint. So, how will they get that money? The Royal Mint is where they print money. Of course, they'll print their own money. Have you ever seen a gang this audacious? What they want to steal isn't the bank, but the father of all banks, the Royal Mint. Their goal isn't to steal money, it's to print it. Use the real money printing machines to print 4 trillion won that can't be traced, and then disappear without a trace. The gang is super hyped, looking at all the pristine bills laid out in front of them. They've been holding the Royal Mint for a solid 15 hours, and they're playing the game well. They've grabbed over 50 hostages, divided them into cooking and working groups. The working group is in charge of printing money, and they've split into smaller teams to keep the money printing going day and night. Meanwhile, the police are in a world of hurt. They have to deal with the robbers and the public outcry, because one of the hostages is Anne, the US ambassador's daughter. Last night, they tried a forceful takeover, but it ended in disaster. The negotiation expert, Wu Jin, showed up, and she got the reporters to shut up with just 2 or 3 sentences. Forget the forceful takeover, that's all lies. The police are prioritizing the safety of the hostages. Wu Jin knows that the gang, led by the professor, is a tight-knit group. To deal with them, the police need to be united. That's why Wu Jin hopes that from now on, all important decisions will be based on her judgment, from troop movements to what news is released to the media. She needs control of everything. Captain Cha hands over the intel gathered from the failed assault. Wu Jin reviews it. Even though the forceful takeover failed, they learned something about the gang's combat skills. First, don't underestimate their weapons. Second, they can predict the police's actions. They've definitely had military training. Based on the current situation, the gang's goal is not just to steal money. Wu Jin continues negotiations with the professor. The professor is curious about something. When was the last time Wu Jin slept with a man? Because he feels that in such a dangerous moment, they need more private communication to build an emotional connection. If Wu Jin won't answer, he switches to another question. Has she ever faked an orgasm? This time, Wu Jin doesn't dodge. She has, but not every time. The professor thinks she's lying, just like those 3 forces that broke into the mint last night. Wu Jin fires back. They're the ones who were tricked. The professor said there were only 4 robbers, obviously trying to set them up. They even staged a hostage situation. The professor doesn't think that's the main point. The real problem is that they're not being honest with each other. The police better not try to trick him again, or everyone will be in danger. Wu Jin promises that from now on she'll be in charge of everything, and there won't be any more lies. But the professor doesn't believe her. He tells her to answer his original question. When was the last time she had an orgasm? When Wu Jin can answer that question, then she can contact him again. Captain Cha thinks the guy on the other end is a lunatic. But Wu Jin doesn't think so. She thinks the professor is a master negotiator. He doesn't reveal what he wants. That's the most difficult type of opponent to deal with. But Wu Jin believes the professor will contact her soon, because the food in the Royal Mint can only last 4 days, at most. Plus, controlling over 50 hostages is no easy task. The gang is probably planning to escape, but they can't leave the country. So, they'll gradually become anxious. According to the current situation, whichever side loses its patience first will lose. Don't just look at how calm the robbers are right now. They won't be able to keep it up for long. She right. For the robbers, time is money. Therefore, their working group split into 2 smaller groups. One in charge of printing money, and one in charge of digging a tunnel. Denver and his dad, Moscow, are supervising the tunnel digging team. Midway through, the 2 of them go over to the staircase to talk. Little did they know, this created an opportunity for the hostages to discuss escaping. Young Min suggests contacting the police. But how can they contact them? All their phones have been confiscated. Don't worry about that, Young Min has a plan. Suddenly, a scream rings out. Huang's hand has been injured. Denver and his dad rush over to see what happened. Moscow tells his son Denver to go get the first aid kit. Seeing this, Young Min quietly follows Denver. Unexpectedly, Denver runs into Tokyo. Young Min ducks into a corner, but he can't escape Tokyo's gaze. Young Min is brought before Berlin. While Berlin is interrogating him, Denver brings Huang into the room. Young Min quickly grabs Huang's arm to explain that his colleague was injured while working. He wanted to find the first aid kit, so he came to the hall. As for why he was hiding from Tokyo, it's because he was afraid he'd be punished. Seeing this, Berlin announces that all the hostages need to be gathered together. North Koreans on the right, South Koreans on the left. After the division, Anne doesn't know where to stand. She's neither North Korean nor South Korean. So Berlin gives an order. Rio is to take her to the break room and keep a close eye on her. Berlin promises the hostages that they will continue to be treated with respect. But if anyone disobeys orders or endangers the safety of others, they will be punished accordingly. If someone from South Korea makes a mistake, someone from North Korea will be punished, and vice versa. So, they need to keep an eye on each other. Young Min curiously asks what the punishment will be. Berlin isn't going to tell him, because Young Min will find out soon enough. Tokyo doesn't agree with Berlin's methods. The professor said they need to treat the hostages humanely. Berlin's methods are likely to cause conflict between the two groups. But, on second thought, it could also make them more united. For example, to avoid being punished, a North Korean hostage might help a South Korean hostage cover up a mistake. Berlin feels that creating a little tension will benefit them. Tokyo thinks they should kill a chicken to scare the monkeys, punish Young Min alone. Berlin thinks that his method is just awakening the hostages' subconscious. The basic attitude towards the hostages hasn't changed at all. Tokyo can't argue with Berlin. She can only turn around and leave in anger. Meanwhile, the police have only deployed a few snipers in key positions and pulled back the rest of their forces to wait for orders. Right now, the police are just blind bears. They have no idea what's going on inside the Royal Mint. They haven't even found the communication devices. All the networks are down, so they assume there are IT experts in the gang. Wu Jin suddenly remembers a media company that can track all communication signals nearby. Thinking of this, she orders the police to turn off their phones and all other smart devices and use walkie-talkies to communicate. All the reporters and journalists waiting nearby need to be evacuated outside the base station's radius. No matter how well prepared the professor is, or how perfect his plan might seem, as time goes on, there are bound to be slip-ups. Either conflicts will break out among the hostages, or there will be internal disputes within the gang. What the police need to do is seize that one opportunity. At the same time, Young Min secretly tells his mistress, Mi-sun, that he has a way to contact the police. The smartwatch that they've been secretly using to communicate is in his office drawer. If she can get it, they'll be saved. His plan is for Mi-sun to go get that watch. Narrator voice. Giving such a dangerous task to a woman? Young Min is really a shameless dude. Mi-sun knows it's incredibly risky, but she can't resist his sweet talk. Young Min has promised her that if they get out of here safely, he'll immediately divorce his wife and marry her. Just then, Denver overhears their conversation. He walks over to ask what's going on. Young Min lies and says that Mi-sun is pregnant, so he was checking up on her and offering to take her to the break room. He said she's at risk of miscarriage if she is not careful. Denver, following the rule of not letting anything bad happen to the hostages, abides to help Mi-sun rest. He took her to be locked in the same room as Anne. As soon as Mi-sun enters the room, she starts looking around. Anne notices, and Anne knows something is going on with Mi-sun, and she needs help. As a result, the CCTV showed these two ladies were having a conversation, or even a fight. After Rio sees what's going on the CCTV, he enters the room and asks what's going on. Anne said that she is having her period and needs to go to the bathroom right away. After Rio hesitated, he took Anne to the bathroom so that Mi-sun could have more time to get the watch. To buy Mi-sun more time, Anne uses her feminine charm to seduce Rio, pushing him to the wall while kissing him. Meanwhile, Mi-sun is taking this chance to get to Young Min's office and successfully steals the smartwatch. Rio is lost in the kiss with Anne when she suddenly picks up the gun that Rio had placed on the ground and points it directly at Rio, demanding that he put his hands up. Rio is speechless. He yells at Anne to just pull the trigger. He even puts the barrel of the gun against his chest. Anne closes her eyes and pulls the trigger, but the gun doesn't fire. Rio quickly turns the tables, grabs the gun, disengages the safety, and pushes Anne to the ground. Meanwhile, the police suddenly detect a signal. Wu Jin suspects it's from a hostage, so she orders her subordinates to open the signal channel. Just as Mi-sun is about to call the police, Denver suddenly appears. Mi-sun explains that she was too hungry and had to come here to find something to eat. Hearing this, Denver takes out all the food he has and asks Mi-sun what she wants to eat. Mi-sun chooses milk. Denver, being a sweetie, says that cold milk isn't good for pregnant women, so he decides to go warm it up for her. Denver has barely left when Mi-sun quickly turns on the watch. Before she can make a call, Denver comes back again. Mi-sun has to turn off the watch, but her actions arouse Denver's suspicion. He directly grabs her arm. You'd think Denver has figured out the smartwatch? Not quite. Instead, Denver suspects that Young Min has hit Mi-sun. Mi-sun quickly denies it. She confesses that Young Min is married, and they're having an affair. These words shock Denver, but he can understand. And then he asks Mi-sun if Young Min is forcing her to get an abortion or anything like that. Mi-sun has no choice but to say that it's true. Denver's sense of justice immediately swells. He thinks that Young Min is a scumbag. Having said that, he directly drags Mi-sun to find Young Min to settle the score. Over on the police side, they figured out that the emergency call they received was from a smartwatch registered in Young Min's name. As for why it suddenly went offline, they can't figure it out. However, Wu Jin has a way to find out the reason. After which, she then called the professor's number to answer his question. The last time she had an orgasm was about 2 months ago. Just a one-night stand, but they really clicked. Since Wu Jin answered the professor's question, he has to answer one of her questions. What did they do with the hostages' phones? The professor tells the truth. They've all been turned off. At this point, Wu Jin knows what she has to do. She tells the professor to let her know if he needs anything. Even though he doesn't need anything, the professor politely thanks her for her kindness. It seems that the professor has no idea that someone contacted the police. This is the first favorable situation for the police since the robbery began. But the question now is, if the hostages turn on their phones again, how can they contact the police without being detected? The technical department suggests using text messages to notify the hostages and also sending a link. As long as the hostages click on the link, they'll have a way to hear the sounds inside the Royal Mint and even see the images. Inside the Royal Mint, another shift change begins. Denver, dragging Mi-sun, finds Young Min preparing to teach the scumbag a lesson. Mi-sun quickly steps forward to stop Denver, then quickly slips the watch into Young Min's pocket. Wu Jin's question sounds harmless, but the professor vaguely senses something is wrong. So, he quickly contacts the crew inside the Royal Mint, asking if anything big happened. Rio answers the phone. If there's anything big going on, it's that they're bored. Inside, the professor still doesn't feel at ease, so he sends a message to Wu Jin. In Denver's eyes, Young Min is a scumbag, so he sees everything he does as suspicious. Young Min claims that he has a stomachache to runs to the bathroom, then prepares to turn on the smartwatch. The police are now investigating what he will do. The police immediately detect a signal, so the entire team gets ready. Unexpectedly, it's just the internal phone to order food, so they're disappointed. At this time, Young Min hadn't had a chance to turn on the smartwatch before Denver shows up to guard him. To Denver, everything Young Min does is suspicious. So, he tells him to keep the door open during the whole process of going to the bathroom. The great opportunity is missed. The professor manages to meet up with Wu Jin to get more information about the police's progress. Wu Jin refuses to tell the professor, but she gets a call from a colleague right at this time. She tells her colleague to wait for the professor to turn on the phone, and it's been listened to by the professor. While Wu Jin turns around to answer the phone, she accidentally sees the professor's reflection listening to the conversation in the mirror. So, Wu Jin quickly hangs up, takes out a shiny handcuff, and asks the professor why he was eavesdropping on her conversation. The professor then begins his heartfelt confession. He knows that Wu Jin may not like him, but he's getting more and more attached to her. Wu Jin's distance makes him feel like she has another man. Just like that, Wu Jin is touched by the professor. It wasn't that she'd lost interest in him. It's that, given the current situation, it wasn't the right time to be talking about love. Back at headquarters, the professor immediately contacts Berlin. Someone among the hostages is carrying a smartwatch. Berlin gathers all the hostages together again. Young Min seizes the opportunity to turn on the watch and click on the link the police sent. The police can finally hear what's going on inside the Royal Mint. Just then, Berlin calls Young Min forward. He quickly hands the watch to Mi-sun. Berlin tasks Young Min with finding whoever among the hostages is frequently contacting the outside world. Seeing this, Mi-sun quickly shoves the watch into her chest. Young Min begins scanning everyone one by one. When he gets to Mi-sun, sure enough, the scanner beeps. Berlin goes over and rips open her shirt, but it's just a metal necklace. Just as he's about to turn away, the watch falls out of Mi-sun's pant leg and onto the floor. Berlin immediately turns around, picks up the watch, and then drops it again. Then, he goes crazy, stomping on it. The only chance for the police is gone. Just when they don't know what to do, the professor calls. Wu Jin tries to act calm. The professor can't be patient anymore. He thought it was a relationship of trust that they had, so why does the police do this? Wu Jin tries to explain that conducting communication signal checks is standard procedure. Hostages making sudden moves out of fear is normal. The professor can understand these things. He won't make a fuss this time, but if something similar happens again, he'll immediately end the negotiations. After Berlin goes crazy and vents his anger, he orders Mi-sun's execution. Rio and Denver both disagree, but they're powerless because command is in Berlin's hands. No matter how much they argue, it's useless. Berlin gives this extremely difficult task to Denver. Denver tries to persuade Berlin again, but it's no use. With no other choice, Denver takes the gun. Then, he forcefully drags Mi-sun in front of everyone. At the critical moment, the phone rings. It's the professor calling, but Berlin chooses to ignore it. He thinks that someone made Mi-sun do this. Huang suddenly stands up and says that it was Young Min who told her to do it. Mi-sun had nothing to do with it. Hearing this, Young Min quickly explains that it wasn't his fault. He also said that Mi-sun was never pregnant. With that, he cowardly kneels on the ground, begging Berlin for mercy. At the same time, Denver has taken Mi-sun away. He wants to know if Mi-sun is really pregnant. Although she doesn't tell the truth, Denver knows from Mi-sun's expression that he's been lied to. He's furious, but Denver, being a softie, can't bring himself to kill her. He can only angrily shoot into the air. After calming down, Denver carefully thinks it over. If Mi-sun doesn't die, then he'll have to take her place. He is scared and said that if he does not kill her, he will die. Along with the second gunshot, Mi-sun falls to the ground, lying in a pool of blood. Berlin goes to check on the situation, while the other hostages wait in the hall for orders. What happened to my son has caused panic. Huang immediately stands up and accuses Young Min. If he hadn't told Mi-sun to do such dangerous things, Mi-sun wouldn't have met with such an end. A man who tells a woman to do dangerous things, then shirks all responsibility. He's not even human, let alone a man. Everyone hears this and begins to talk, and an argument ensues, with people taking sides, even mentioning the conflict between North and South Korea. The complexity of human hearts is easily seen. If the robbers weren't trying to maintain order, the two sides might have already clashed. Berlin goes to the bathroom and directly walks forward to check and make sure the person is dead. Narrator voice. One thing you have to say. Berlin is a paranoid dude. After confirming that Mi-sun is dead, Berlin tells Denver to quickly dispose of her body. Having gone through this, Tokyo can't stand Berlin anymore. She insists on reporting the situation inside to the professor, but Ryo stops her. Tokyo must listen to the professor's order, but Berlin disobeyed. While the two are arguing, the phone nearby suddenly rings. It's the professor calling. Berlin wants to kick Tokyo out of there. Looking at the way the two are drawing swords, if Tokyo dares to resist, she'll lose her life right there. Luckily, Ryo steps in to help the two reconcile, so Tokyo can safely leave. Berlin answers the phone. He lies and says that they just had a little difference of opinion, which has now been resolved smoothly. The woman who was just taken out of the waiting area was taken to the break room to rest. After all, there are so many hostages. They need to create a terrifying atmosphere so that the hostages will obediently listen to them. The professor reluctantly believes what he says. However, he still has to remind Berlin that now is a critical moment for action. Don't let any mistakes happen. After saying these things, Berlin turns on the speakerphone. The professor wants to talk to Ryo, asking him to help analyze the access logs of the smartwatch to check if the police have found anything. After arguing with Berlin, Tokyo runs to find Denver. This is where Mi-sun is hiding. It turns out that she wasn't dead. She was only shot in the leg. This method was also thought of by Mi-sun to deceive Berlin. If Tokyo didn't let her in, Mi-sun would have been killed by Berlin. Seeing Mi-sun's leg constantly bleeding, Tokyo goes over to help Mi-sun bandage her wound and give her an antibiotic shot. Tokyo feels that she can't let Berlin do whatever he wants. He wants to completely remove the leader of the crew. But to do that, they need to get rid of the two leaders named Helsinki and Oslo. Tokyo cannot believe how big of a mouth those two have that they would say it right in front of Mi-sun. Meanwhile, Woojin has found someone to recover the video recorded before the watch was destroyed. The video clearly recorded Ryo's face. After investigating, this person's real name is Han, 22 years old, a medical student who dropped out, and a hacker. The professor created a detailed plan, which means that the crew probably had visited the Royal Mint many times. Woojin asked her subordinate to review any camera within the Royal Mint to find anything. When planning this operation, the professor told everyone that once they entered the Royal Mint, he could only monitor what was happening inside, through surveillance cameras and telephones. No one could predict what would happen inside, so he needed someone who could command everything for him. Berlin boldly nominated himself. Although Tokyo had some objections, the minority still had to listen to the majority. In the end, Berlin was put in charge. Denver's dad, Moscow, will be responsible for opening an escape route for everyone. This is their only way out. The tunnel dug by the hostages is just a trick to confuse the police. Seeing Denver, who's supervising the hostages, go into the bathroom, Huang goes to find Young Min, warning him not to act like a tyrant anymore, or he'll implicate other innocent people. The robbers have said that as long as the hostages don't cause trouble, they'll let them leave safely. During this time, Huang hopes that Young Min will stay put, or he'll have to bear all the consequences himself. During mealtime, Moscow notices that the atmosphere between the hostages is very strange. He suspects that something must have happened. Berlin doesn't explain, just tells him to directly ask Denver. Denver doesn't want to get involved in any trouble, so he has to follow Berlin's orders. After Tokyo finishes eating, she leaves the waiting area alone. Berlin, feeling uneasy, sends Oslo to follow her. Denver sees all of this. Tokyo knows that someone is following her. She intentionally leads Oslo to a blind spot in the security camera, then locks the stairwell door. Denver takes this opportunity to rush Oslo, but the size difference between the two is significant. Denver is no match for Oslo, based on strength alone. He can only win with intelligence. Denver relies on his agile body to jump down the stairs and grab the guy by the neck. Oslo struggles desperately to escape. While the two are at their limit, Denver hits Oslo's pressure point and knocks him out with a bench. At the same time, Mi-sun drags her injured body, planning to escape, but the room door is locked. The noise she makes attracts Helsinki's attention. He slowly walks towards her. Mi-sun has found paper and a pen inside the room, wanting to let Young Min know that she's still alive. Just then, Helsinki opens the door and enters the room. Hearing a noise inside, he immediately takes a defensive stance. With the sound of footsteps getting closer and closer, Mi-sun's survival is exposed. At the crucial moment, Tokyo appears. She forces Helsinki to drop his weapon. Meanwhile, Ryo, through his high-level hacking skills, has figured out that the watch has a history of sending something that, judging by the size, is probably a photo or video. If someone among them were photographed, things would become very complicated. The professor told Ryo to continue investigating and see what information the police have obtained. Woojin, through investigating the videos recorded by the security cameras, discovers that two suspicious employees appeared at the convenience store opposite the Royal Mint a week before. One of them is Ryo, and the other is Nairobi. They already know who Ryo is, but Nairobi's identity is still being investigated. Woojin specifically emphasizes that they should focus on investigating the videos before and after this time. Don't miss any suspicious characters. Woojin is busy with the gang's affairs, and she basically can't pay attention to her daughter and mother. Her phone is always busy. Woojin's daughter comes home from school. She gets into a black car. Seeing this, Woojin's mother calls her, but the phone is turned off and can't be connected. Woojin's mother has Alzheimer's disease. She has forgotten many things, so she writes all the important things in a notebook. Unable to contact Woojin, she can only find another way. She has to contact her daughter's boyfriend, who is the professor. Inside the Royal Mint, Berlin is afraid that his position will be shaken, so he starts trying to brainwash Rio in order to persuade him to stand by his side. Tokyo's appearance cuts off their conversation. They've taken down Berlin's 2 protectors. Berlin is now in a dangerous situation with no one to rely on. Tokyo tells Rio to immediately contact the professor and report to him all the actual situation. But unfortunately, the professor isn't there. He had just received a call from Woojin's mother, so he drove out. But he didn't go to Woojin's house. Instead, he went to police headquarters. The police have blockaded this area, preventing any outsiders from entering. The professor starts to play a few tricks, then takes advantage of the chaos to sneak inside. At this time, the police have also investigated Nairobi's identity. She's 38 years old and has a history of fraud. The situation has made some progress. They've identified 2 members of the gang. Woojin decides to keep this a secret from the outside. She's thinking about how to use this card to her advantage. Just then, the prosecutor discovers a mobile phone signal nearby. After listening carefully, it turns out that the professor and a police officer are arguing. The professor stormed into the command center because he wanted to tell Woojin that her mother had an urgent matter and wanted to find her. Woojin quickly calls home, only to find out that her daughter was taken away by her ex-husband. Woojin is furious. She immediately calls her ex-husband, warning him to take her daughter home immediately. Then, she turns around to thank the professor for the information. Thanks for the thanks, but this is still a restricted area. You shouldn't have barged in here. Although the professor was kicked out, it's okay. He got the information he needed. Rio and Nairobi's identities have been revealed. Berlin has violated the professor's orders, causing division among the hostages. He even broke the taboo of not letting any casualties happen. If he continues to lead everyone, the professor's plan will fall apart. So, he has to be demoted. But Tokyo can't say that by herself, so she can only use a vote of support. Berlin has himself and his 2 protectors, for a total of 3 votes. The others are all on Tokyo's side, making the score 5-3. Berlin is forced to hand over his leadership. After the professor comes back, he finds out that there is internal conflict. The professor immediately calls Berlin. Berlin can't hide it anymore and has to admit that he ordered the execution of a hostage. Hearing this, the professor is furious. But Berlin thinks that this is the perfect solution. But in reality, it's not perfect at all. The hostage isn't dead. Not only is there internal conflict now, but Rio and Nairobi's identities have also been revealed. Berlin then turns to criticize the professor. If he had agreed to do things his way from the beginning, so many bad things wouldn't have happened. Hearing Berlin say this, Nairobi and Rio have a change of heart. They decide to continue to support Berlin. Moscow overheard their conversation. After finding out that his son has hurt someone, he gets so angry that he almost faints. At this time, the professor is also very uncomfortable. He put so much effort into planning and predicted countless possibilities. He thought everything was under control. Unexpectedly, the plan can't keep up with the changes in reality. In reality, people are not predictable. After Moscow finds out that Denver has hurt someone, everything collapses. He goes to open the door of the Royal Mint, wanting to end this crazy story quickly. After all, surrendering can still get leniency. The police spot someone coming out. The special police team is immediately mobilized to approach the target. Denver, wanting to stop his dad, quickly puts on a mask and rushes out the door, trying his best to shield his dad, afraid that he'll expose his identity. Moscow tells his son to surrender with him. He'll have to bear the charge of hurting someone. Denver tries to explain to his dad that he didn't do it. Tokyo can testify. Woojin, seeing their situation, speculates that the 2 of them are members of the gang and that there is internal conflict. Captain Cha immediately orders the snipers into position, waiting for orders. Inside the Royal Mint, they see this scene. They were speechless. However, Berlin suddenly has an idea. If the professor agrees, the plan can be executed. The situation has reached a critical point, and there are no other choices the professor could take, so he agrees to it. Berlin selects a group of hostages to equip with weapons, and they go out the door of the Royal Mint along with the gang to disrupt the police's line of sight and rescue the member in trouble. Because there are hostages mixed in, the police don't dare to act recklessly. Berlin had said that he wanted to use fear to control the hostages, but the professor believed that his theory wasn't just for the hostages. After the video on the smartwatch was leaked, the gang members were changing in the direction the professor wanted. The professor felt that this wasn't a coincidence, but that he had designed it from the beginning. Facing the security camera, Berlin doesn't deny it, but in his heart, he is secretly happy. With Tokyo standing up to testify, Moscow now believes that his son Denver didn't hurt anyone. Rio hears their conversation and immediately scolds Denver for daring to lie to Berlin. It's really late now, but they still want to argue. Rio falls to the ground. Young Min uses the chaos to grab a weapon. Facing this sudden situation, Captain Cha immediately reminds the snipers to get ready. Young Min raises his gun, threatening everyone. Both the gang and the hostages don't dare to move. They can only obediently squat down and surrender. But Young Min doesn't take off his mask. From the police's point of view, they think that the gang is in control. Is he a gang member or a hostage? Woojin doesn't have time to think carefully. She doesn't want to take risks, but she has to. This time, the opportunity is fleeting. Woojin immediately orders the police to shoot. The snipers have been prepared for a long time. They immediately pull the trigger. The bullet goes straight through Young Min's chest. He falls to the ground, and his mask falls off. The professor's plan was perfect. They even rehearsed how to remove the bullet when someone was shot. But rehearsing is rehearsing, and real combat is real combat. There are differences. They quickly retreat into the Royal Mint, and the entire crew does not know how to react since there were no training or backup plans for this moment. This incident has made both sides feel more tense than ever. Shooting the wrong hostage? Don't even mention being blamed by the higher-ups. The public outcry alone will be enough to drown them. Now they can only pray that the hostage's life isn't in danger. Over here, the professor adheres to the principle of not letting any casualties happen. Although the person who was injured isn't one of their own, they can't stand by and watch them die. In this moment of life and death, Young Min only remembers his wife and children. He wants to say a few words to his wife. Wu Jin again contacts the professor. First of all, regardless of who's right or wrong, saving people is more important. Wu Jin suggests that Young Min be taken to the hospital. The professor disagrees. They can't hand over the hostages. Wu Jin has to change her strategy. They'll send a medical team in there to save people. This wasn't in the professor's plan. He needs to think it over. Wu Jin's mood is really bad. After all, she's the one who ordered the shooting. Captain Cha says that he also has responsibility, but now isn't the time to talk about this. The important thing is how to resolve this. Captain Cha has an idea. He'll go into the Royal Mint with the medical team. At the same time, the professor is negotiating and discussing with Berlin. Berlin doesn't want outsiders to come in here. The professor doesn't want the hostage to die. To Berlin, the hostage was shot by the police. They can also take this opportunity to build momentum and seize the dominant position. Moreover, Young Min wasn't seriously injured. He's still causing trouble, demanding to call his wife. He doesn't seem like someone who's about to die at all. The professor immediately reminds Berlin that he's the one who ordered the execution of the hostage, which caused a series of problems. He's not done with that yet. However, Berlin says that he won't listen to the professor's unreasonable orders. After hanging up, the professor tells Wu Jin that Young Min wants to call his wife. Send the medical team in an hour. Wu Jin is overjoyed. The gang has always been one step ahead of them, as if they've been preparing for this for a long time. But this unexpected situation has created an opportunity for them to turn the tide. Captain Cha has prepared clothing that looks like the gang's. After entering, he will choose the opportunity to act. At this time, Young Min's whole body is twitching. Berlin tells someone to take him into the exhibition hall to wait for the medical team to come in and provide first aid. The hostages are a little scared when they see this scene, but when they think about it, it was the police who opened fire. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the gang. Furthermore, Young Min brought this on himself, so he can't blame others. At this time, Denver is helping Mi-sun with the medication down in the vault, but her injury is too serious. If she doesn't have surgery, her leg will be crippled. They'll have to wait for the medical team to come in and take a few of their tools. Rio will be in charge of the surgery, but he doesn't want to make any trouble for himself. What if Berlin finds out? Keeping this a secret from them is the biggest concession he can make. Denver decides that he'll do it himself. If he's the one who fired the shot, then he'll be the one to take the bullet out. Mi-sun doesn't know what's been happening outside. She can't help but feel suspicious about the appearance of the medical team. Tokyo says that a hostage was injured. Although she doesn't say who it is, Mi-sun can guess that it's Young Min. She hands the note to Denver and asks him to give it to Young Min. Outside the Royal Mint, the medical team is fully assembled. Captain Cha has some expertise. He can disguise himself as an assistant to the doctors. The doctors carefully estimate that the surgery will take at least 30 minutes. Wu Jin has asked them to try to drag it out. At the same time, Denver is feeling upset for Mi-sun. It was Young Min who caused her to end up like this, but she's still thinking about him and worrying about him. Tokyo suspects that Denver has feelings for Mi-sun. He quickly explains that it's just that he can't understand Mi-sun's thinking. With just a word from Tokyo, it struck Denver, a need to understand them. The two go to the exhibition hall, preparing to act. Berlin brings Young Min's phone, asking him what the password is. Young Min shakily reads out 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Berlin grins. He has such a low degree, and he still dared to have an affair. Young Min saves his wife's number as, the person I love the most. The person he loves the most is his wife. Then what about Mi-sun? Berlin dialed the number, not forgetting to remind him to pay attention. He said that Young Min's wife is at headquarters and her phone is being monitored by the police. Young Min expresses his love for his wife and children. Denver is getting angrier and angrier as he listens. After the phone call ends, Captain Cha immediately formulates an operation plan. The surgery will distract the gang. He'll send several elite members to sneak in and carry out a head-on operation. Once they successfully sneak in, they'll need to increase the pressure from the outside. Then, they'll coordinate from the inside and outside to defeat the robbers. So, how will they transmit information? Captain Cha immediately puts on a pair of glasses. These glasses can transmit all images and sounds in real time. The medical team enters the Royal Mint. The police tried every method, only to get tricked because the professor and his connection inside the medical team member are part of the gang. The professor only needs to glance at the images through the security camera to immediately recognize that Captain Cha has disguised himself and mixed in. When the professor came to find Wu Jin, he had met Captain Cha before. Berlin doesn't think too much about it, preparing to take down the medical team first and then think about the rest. The professor tells him to stay calm. Taking the risk to sneak in isn't just to get a handle on the internal situation. They must have other plans in mind. The medical team is still being checked. The elite troops have started to sneak in. Everything is still going very smoothly. But unexpectedly, a robber suddenly comes up and whispers a few words into his partner's ear, requesting a recheck of the medical team. The atmosphere suddenly becomes tense. When the scanner scans Captain Cha's glasses, the alarm suddenly goes off. He raises his hand to take off his glasses, thinking that his identity has been exposed, but the person returns the glasses to Captain Cha. Wu Jin can't help but breathe a sigh of relief. She has told the elite troops about the situation inside the Royal Mint. There are many people in the waiting area, and everyone is wearing masks. It's impossible to tell who is a hostage and who is a member of the gang. The elite troops sneak into the Royal Mint through the ventilation duct. The surgery also begins. Captain Cha doesn't dare to act recklessly. Berlin goes to ask how long the surgery will take. The doctor says that it will take 2 hours. Berlin impatiently orders the doctors to complete the surgery within an hour. Captain Cha isn't lying. He says he knows a little bit of medical knowledge, and it really is just a little bit, definitely not 2 little bits. The doctor needs a scalpel. Captain Cha basically doesn't know which one it is. With no other choice, the doctor has to tell him to just grab one. Berlin seizes the opportunity to attack the doctor. The doctor is a little scared, and his hands are shaking. Berlin orders Captain Cha, who's not shaking, to perform the surgery. Captain Cha says that he's just an assistant and can't perform the surgery. Even though Berlin has learned of his identity, he still has to find a reason to use him. Being pointed at with a gun and still not being afraid, a normal person couldn't be that bold. Captain Cha frankly admits that he's a police officer. He came here with the medical team just to ensure their safety, and he has no other intentions. His goal is very clear. He's revealing his identity to attract attention in order to buy time for the elite troops. Captain Cha says it as if it's no big deal, but the professor feels that it's not that simple. He reminds Berlin to stay vigilant. Denver prepares to grab the surgery tools and sneak away, but Berlin calls him to stop, telling him to stay here and monitor the situation. Rio scans all the security cameras' surroundings and discovers nothing abnormal. The elite troops are entering the kitchen, preparing to attack from there. Seeing that the time is right, Captain Cha signals to the doctor. The doctor says that they only need to stitch up the wound, and the surgery will be finished. Denver sees this, and he intentionally drops the surgery instrument tray on the ground. He only wanted to steal the tools, but he inadvertently helped Captain Cha attract everyone's attention. Captain Cha uses this opportunity to adjust his glasses. This action gives the professor a clue. The glasses that Captain Cha is wearing right now are not the same as the glasses from before. Rio says that those glasses can integrate both a camera and a listening device. The professor finally understands that this is a strategy to lure in the enemy. The police want to use Captain Cha to attract attention. Then they'll transmit the situation inside and then launch an attack somewhere else. The elite troops have successfully broken in, but the professor still doesn't feel panic. Rio immediately reports the situation to Berlin. They left one step ahead. When Captain Cha comes out, he's completely stunned. Why? Because the entire gang has switched to different masks. This trick is unpredictable. Wu Jin quickly informs the elite troops to retreat. Captain Cha also quickly calls off the plan. The elite troops have to retreat along the same route. The gang searches everywhere, but they're one step too late. However, victory still belongs to them. The professor had predicted this situation and formulated the Trojan horse tactics. Why? After discovering Captain Cha, didn't they stop him from entering? Because they wanted to hack his phone, they used this method to counterattack, making Captain Cha unknowingly become a spy. Right now, the police are also very confused. The professor's power is truly beyond their imagination. They're being played by him like ignorant monkeys. If they think that way, then they've completely fallen into the professor's trap. At the same time, Denver gets the surgical tools and starts performing surgery on Mi-sun, but his hands are shaking. He can't do it. Tokyo can't watch anymore, so she has to go find Rio to help. But unexpectedly, she is being controlled as soon as she enters the door. Berlin had sensed for a long time that there was something secret between the two of them. Tokyo definitely won't talk. He can only wait and see if Rio will talk. If he doesn't, then he'll hand Tokyo over to the police. Berlin isn't afraid that Tokyo will sell everyone out because Tokyo won't ruin the professor's plan. Tokyo looks at Rio, gently shaking her head, signaling him not to say anything. Meanwhile, Mi-sun has ended up like this, but she's still thinking about Young Min. She asks Denver if he gave her the note him. Denver lies to her, saying that he gave it to Young Min. She asks him what his reaction was after seeing it. Did he had any words to say to her? Denver starts to make it up. After seeing the note, Young Min cried his eyes out and said that he loves Mi-sun so much too. If he can get out of here, then he will absolutely not let her down. Behind them, the sound of a door opening suddenly rings out. Thinking that Tokyo has returned, it turns out to be Berlin. Berlin raises his gun, aiming straight at Mi-sun. Mi-sun isn't dead. Denver has broken trust with Berlin. Berlin is thinking about how to punish him. First, they must eliminate Mi-sun. Denver quickly runs over to protect Mi-sun, demanding that Berlin stop, but Berlin isn't willing to listen. Eliminating Mi-sun is to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. The chicken hasn't died yet, so how can they scare the monkeys? If this gets out, wouldn't it cause chaos? Denver doesn't back down at all. If Berlin wants to kill Mi-sun, then he'll have to eliminate him first. Berlin can't forgive him. He counts to 3, wanting to get out of the way, but does not stop. Berlin has counted to 3, but the gunshot doesn't ring out because Nairobi has appeared, also bringing Tokyo and Rio. Mi-sun's note is in her hand. While Denver was secretly grabbing the surgery tools, he accidentally dropped them on the ground, and Nairobi picked them up. After saving Tokyo and Rio, she immediately rushed over here. Originally, Nairobi was on Berlin's side, but he's going too far. She can only change her mind. Mi-sun's situation is getting worse and worse. If she doesn't have surgery, then she can't be saved. Rio finally goes over to help, helping Mi-sun take the bullet out of her leg. After that, he immediately rushes to the toilet, constantly vomiting. Rio studied at a medical university. Why is he vomiting so much from just performing surgery? Because he's afraid of blood. Why did he study medicine if he's afraid of blood? Because in his family, generation after generation are all doctors. Ryo's life was planned out long ago. He doesn't have the right to choose. Mi-sun's survival is no longer a secret, so they don't need to hide anymore. They directly switch to a more comfortable place to rest. While performing the surgery, she lost a lot of blood. Mi-sun has type O blood. Denver did the same, so Denver transmitted the blood to her. The two talk about Mi-sun's note. She's known all along that Denver has been lying because Young Min has never said a single word of love to her. At the same time, Tokyo has contacted the professor and told him that Mi-sun is still alive. The professor is extremely excited. The vow of no casualties has been kept. Berlin is tied up in one place, preparing himself to accept his punishment. Luckily, the punishment isn't too severe. He's only been stripped of his gun and had his freedom restricted until this is over. The gang's subsequent actions will be commanded by Tokyo, but Berlin isn't the type to sit still and take it. Meanwhile, Wu Jin has been pushed to the forefront by public opinion. As the person in charge of solving the robbery case, she couldn't distinguish between friend and foe and arbitrarily ordered the shooting of the director of the Royal Mint. In addition, the standoff between the police and the gang has dragged on for too long, and everyone is starting to question Wu Jin's professional ability. Even though she's a strong woman, she can't avoid feeling dejected after having to endure so much pressure. Maybe it would be better to vent all the bad emotions. Wu Jin goes to find the professor at night. The professor can see that Wu Jin is very tired. He comforts her and cares for her, quickly capturing the heart of the beautiful woman. At the same time, a strange face suddenly appears inside the Royal Mint. This man is Chul Wu, a member of the Special Forces. At the last moment, he decided not to retreat and disregarded all danger to stay inside the Royal Mint. The professor has planned a great plan. Even he has planned everything but did not expect this. Berlin is tied up. His whole body is constantly shaking, with sweat pouring down his head. It's not clear if he's going through drug withdrawal or if some illness is acting up. Chul Wu uses the opportunity to mix in with the hostages. Anne looks at him with a face full of suspicion. Chul Wu takes a communicator from his pocket and quickly sends out a string of Morse code. The professor is currently in love with Wu Jin, so how can he resolve this crisis? This is an unprecedented, sensational robbery. Incredibly, the head of the gang and the police officer in charge of the case are having a relationship. The two are lost in love, rolling around in bed. But Wu Jin has no idea that all of this is the professor's scheme. The professor had tried everything to be able to hear the news from the police department and be able to tell the gang members. Captain Cha has been called away by the security department. They have just learned something very serious. A few months before the case happened, the gang's hacker attacked the police system and also revealed the dirty secrets of the police department to the media. Furthermore, Wu Jin has also participated in the case of the Royal Mint and is part of the gang's plan. Right now, they can't determine the relationship between the professor and Wu Jin. The most important thing is that the professor is probably using Wu Jin. If the police handle Wu Jin right now, it will make the professor feel that things are getting more and more chaotic. They don't have any more time. They have to use an agent to quickly end this case. At this time, Wu Jin is still lost in the clouds with the professor, completely unaware that she's been labeled a traitor. Meanwhile, Chul Wu, while everyone is asleep, secretly contacts Captain Cha. The conversation between the two can't be long. Captain Cha has ordered them to quickly eliminate the professor. Without the leader, the rest of the people will just be like a swarm of bees. If it's impossible to avoid hurting the hostages, then there's no need to avoid it. Eliminating the professor is the most important thing. Berlin, who's tied up, has frankly admitted to Ryo that he has a terminal illness. In Young Min's office, there's a supply of medicine. He hopes Ryo can help him bring it. Ryo doesn't believe him. He thinks Berlin is lying to him. Right now, the commander has changed to Tokyo, and everyone is very happy. Ryo also hopes Berlin can obediently accept this change. Tokyo and Nairobi have gathered the hostages together. Nairobi has some good news and some bad news to tell everyone. The bad news is that Berlin will be temporarily absent. The good news needs to be seen with their own eyes. They see Denver helping Mi-sun walk out from the side. After seeing Mi-sun, everyone spontaneously claps with joy. Tokyo's management mechanism is relatively relaxed. They'll only manage the people who are going in and out. The hostages can use the bathroom freely. The injured will be treated separately. Men and women will sleep separately. They really don't have any intention of hurting everyone. She hopes that everyone will forget the bad memories that Berlin left behind. In the future, the two sides will work together to build a good cooperative relationship. The hostages don't have any complaints about the opinions that Nairobi has given. Moreover, they also agree to help them work. Meanwhile, Wu Jin has returned to base after a night of passion with the professor. She is full of energy, encouraging everyone. Captain Cha guessed that Wu Jin was with that man last night. Wu Jin doesn't hide it. It's been a long time since she's had such a hot night, unaware that everything she said has been heard by the professor. Wu Jin is full of energy. She directly contacts the professor. She speculates that the Royal Mint is starting to run out of food. The professor is also frank, not hiding anything. However, he'll reduce the food supply for the hostages. Maybe they can still hold on for a while. Wu Jin suggests that she can provide food to the Royal Mint, with the condition that they're not allowed to harm the hostages after the robbery. Wu Jin then orders her subordinates to prepare food. At the same time, Chul Wu is trying to find the professor, but he accidentally meets Young Min. He discovers that Chul Wu isn't one of his employees, nor does he look like someone from the school. Just when Chul Wu is preparing to explain, Anne suddenly appears. She says that Chul is a driver in the school. Then they take this opportunity to pull him away. After moving to a safe area, the two have made their identity clear. In reality, Anne had long guessed that he was a police officer. Then, she asks him what he's planning. Chul Wu needs an assistant to help, so he asks Anne if there's anyone in the gang called the Professor. Anne doesn't know this, but she knows someone who knows this very well. Wu Jin, in charge of receiving the food, is awakened by one sentence from the driver. The food is all prepared in the style of Korean meals. There won't be sandwiches or things like that. Hearing this, Wu Jin reacts at this time. The Professor isn't in the Royal Mint. They've all been tricked. Before, the two were talking on the phone. She had asked the Professor if they were eating and what. And the Professor said that they were eating sandwiches, but inside the Royal Mint, there were no ingredients to make that meal. And most importantly, why would a Korean chef prepare something he doesn't know? Now, Wu Jin has finally understood why the gang has always been able to stay one step ahead of them. Because the Professor, since he has been outside, he has been observing everything. The Professor overhears Wu Jin saying this and immediately can't calm down. He didn't expect that such a small matter could expose his identity. Captain Cha doesn't agree with Wu Jin's statement. All the lines of communication have been cut off by them. How can the Professor contact the gang inside the Royal Mint, unless there's a spy inside the police force? Otherwise, how could they be able to grasp all the police's actions so clearly? After the gang drove to the scene, that car disappeared without a trace. Furthermore, the gang has always been inside the Royal Mint. From this, it can be inferred that the Professor is outside. Wu Jin immediately orders her subordinates to reconfirm the route of the car to prevent them from destroying the car before committing the crime. They should also investigate the junkyard and confirm that Anne's reference is Mi-sun. This is because Mi-sun often interacted with Rio, and Anne asked her a few simple questions. Unexpectedly, Mi-sun had actually heard of this person called the Professor, but she had never seen the person. At the same time, the Professor is asking Oslo if he has disposed of that car yet. Oslo firmly expresses his attitude that he has disposed of it properly. However, he hasn't disposed of the inside of the car, meaning there are still fingerprints hidden inside the car. After learning the location of the junkyard where the car was scrapped in Oslo, the Professor immediately rushes there without hesitation. At the same time, the police have also investigated the location of that car. Wu Jin has also rushed to the junkyard. Right now, they can only see who's faster. Inside the Royal Mint, several hostages, led by Chul Wu, decide to find young men to speculate on the Professor's identity. Then, they'll eliminate that person. At that time, the police will launch a forceful suppression. Anne can't help but worry about the safety of the hostages. Once they start suppressing by force, this place will become very chaotic. She decides to inform everyone in advance so that everyone can escape, but if she does that, it's very likely to alarm the robbers. Young Min suggests that they should first lure Denver over and force him to reveal the whereabouts of that Professor. Mi-sun hesitates a little. After all, Denver saved her life. Not long after, Denver received a note. It was written by Mi-sun telling him to take a trip to the warehouse during lunch break. After Denver sees it, he's very excited. Then, he goes to the warehouse. As expected, the person waiting for him isn't Mi-sun, but a heavy hammer coming down. After he wakes up, Chul Wu has used a plastic bag to tightly tie up Denver's head, while Young Min is in charge of the interrogation. Denver is very tough. He won't reveal the Professor's true identity no matter what. Young Min starts guessing randomly. He knows that neither Denver nor Berlin is the Professor. Helsinki and Oslo can't be it either. Moscow isn't the Professor either. Rio is too young. Nairobi only looks like a leader on the surface. Then, there's only one person left. Tokyo must be the Professor. Meanwhile, the Professor and Wu Jin are both rushing to the junkyard. Captain Cha suddenly receives news that they've found the Professor. So, he immediately orders them to eliminate the Professor and start launching a crackdown. If they still don't act this time, they'll miss the only opportunity to be able to end the gang. The Professor had already arrived at the junkyard, but the police would soon arrive. He could only risk rushing into the office to find information about the car. As soon as the Professor got the car key, he coincidentally met the owner of the junkyard. The Professor hurriedly made an offer to buy the car. The owner was extremely confused. He came to the junkyard to buy a car. Where did this nonsense come from? If he wanted to buy a car, he needed to show up to negotiate the price. The Professor, of course, could not show his face. He immediately grabbed the water bottle next to him and threw it at the group of people, then took the opportunity to run out of the office. At this time, Wu Jin also brought his pursuers here. They began to search for the Professor's figure in the parking lot. At this time, the Professor used the key to successfully find the car. At the same time, Huang had already realized that something was wrong with Young Min. He took the opportunity to grab Anne to ask her something. After knowing everything, Huang was extremely worried about the safety of the hostage. Without waiting for him to think of a strategy, Chul Wu had already started to act. He goes to press the building's fire alarm. The gang immediately becomes tense. Rio doesn't detect any fire through the security cameras. Outside the Royal Mint, the police have also started to act. That fire alarm is the signal that Chul Wu sent. It means that they can break in. At that time, Chul Wu grabs a fire extinguisher and sprays it wildly everywhere. The hostages run away in all directions. Chul Wu, however, carries his gun as he runs off to find Tokyo. Mi-sun really can't take it anymore, so she decides to run over and save Denver. Denver is being tortured by Young Min. Mi-sun arrives in time to stop him. Her actions completely anger Young Min. He believes that Mi-sun and Denver are having an affair. He grabs a wrench, preparing to solve the issue. Seeing this, Mi-sun quickly picks up a gun nearby and aims it directly at Young Min. He flies into a rage, excitedly demanding that Mi-sun try shooting him. Denver uses the opportunity to charge over and knock young Min unconscious. Mi-sun has just helped him untie him when Denver wants to rush out to save Tokyo. At this time, Tokyo is in the security camera room. She has told Nairobi to temporarily stop printing money and gather all the hostages. Rio will go check on Berlin, while she will go patrol the exhibition hall. When she gets downstairs, she sees all the hostages causing a ruckus. So Tokyo immediately orders Helsinki to follow her, while Oslo will evacuate everyone to the waiting hall. Tokyo enters the exhibition hall, which is full of white smoke. Several figures suddenly appear next to her. She orders Oslo to take the people away, then continues to move forward alone. Chul Wu quickly spots Tokyo. At this time, Denver has caught up. He loudly yells that there's an intruder and tells Tokyo to contact the professor. A gunshot rings out, shocking everyone. Then, Captain Shaw immediately receives news that the professor isn't in the Royal Mint. When he calls out Chul Wu's name again, there's no sound. At the same time, Rio sees Berlin lying on the ground. He goes over to remove the handcuffs for him, but is unexpectedly counterattacked by Berlin, who knocks him unconscious. Meanwhile, the professor is using a rag, frantically wiping away fingerprints on the car. Unfortunately, Wu Jin sees him. He quickly crouches down to hide, but the police have already surrounded him. At the crucial moment, the professor decides to drive the car out of the junkyard. Wu Jin quickly gets in her car and chases closely behind. Along the way, the police are chasing after the robber. This scene is comparable to the Fast and Furious movies. The robber is a very principled person. Along the way, he meets an old man. He tells him that he'd rather drive his car into the ditch himself than hurt innocent people. After many rounds of dramatic chases, the robber is surrounded by the police, but of course he's not willing to give in so easily. He lights a cigarette, slams on the gas, and the car immediately plunges into the river about 100 meters away. With a loud explosion, the car exploded completely. The robber has successfully escaped. Outside, the reporters, hearing the gunshots, are clamoring for the police to explain the current situation to them. Public opinion is in turmoil. Wu Jin learns that Captain Cha acted on his own, causing a police officer to sacrifice himself. She immediately gets angry at him. Captain Cha knows that he made the wrong decision and can only obediently accept the scolding. But the cause of this matter, Captain Cha feels, is that Wu Jin needs to know the gang chose her to be the negotiator, which clearly has a purpose. Captain Cha also felt suspicious of her, so he decided on his own. However, seeing her trying so hard to chase after the robbers, they can temporarily dispel their suspicions. Right now, the two of them need to trust each other. This way, they can quickly catch the gang. Since the gang took over the Royal Mint, no hostages have been harmed. They even dared to risk their lives to save young men. Perhaps they're not brutal and vicious criminals, but just money-seeking people. In other words, they care a lot about public opinion. Right now, the police have two important cards in their hands. One is public opinion, and the other is that they know the professor isn't directly in command. They need to make good use of these two cards and quickly seize control from the gang. As for how to do it specifically, Wu Jin has already made plans. She'll find an opportunity to break into the Royal Mint. As for the media, there will be a press conference in 2 hours. Then news will be reported 3 times a day on time, reporting accurate news promptly. As long as the police act according to the principles, public opinion will turn to support them and criticize the gang. The professor has just returned to the cafe and heard all of Wu Jin's words. This time, luckily, Berlin acted in time. Otherwise, Tokyo would have only had one path to death, and their plan would have failed. Tokyo doesn't deny Berlin's contribution, and has agreed to give the position of leader back to him. Perhaps Berlin's management mechanism is the best way to control all the hostages. Berlin agrees with Tokyo's thinking. But this position of leader doesn't need to be changed again. Their common goal is to hope that this plan will succeed, get the money, and make a getaway. If they have the same goal, then the process doesn't matter anymore. Speaking of this, the police suddenly called. Rio directly connects the line to the professor. As soon as Wu Jin sees the other party pick up, she goes straight to the main topic. She asks, what was the meaning of the gunfire earlier? If Wu Jin knows the truth but still asks, then the professor will pretend that they know nothing about what happened. He lies and says that they were conducting target practice. However, Wu Jin still refuses to let go. She asks what happened to the hostages. She must confirm it herself in order to soothe the people's hearts. In addition, Wu Jin wants to record the entire process live. If they really keep their promise, then the public will probably know about it. If they don't agree, then she'll reveal everything to the reporters outside, saying that the gang doesn't care about the lives of the hostages. This isn't the result that the professor wants. He can only agree to her request. Wu Jin is secretly happy in her heart. Her plan can finally be implemented. The professor especially instructs the team members to separate the hostages for identification, avoid unexpected situations from happening. Moreover, they also need to carefully remind the hostages not to reveal anything that happened inside the Royal Mint, especially the printing of money and the police officer Chul Wu being eliminated. Early the next morning, the gang gathered all the hostages in the waiting hall, then clearly told them about the hostage identification. At that time, what needs to be said and what shouldn't be said, everyone probably already knows in their hearts. Tokyo also doesn't emphasize it further. Just then, Anne stands up and asks about how they handled Chul Wu's body. Berlin immediately appears and gives her an answer. No police officer has passed away. They're just practicing target shooting. While talking, Berlin introduces himself to everyone. His real name is Song, and he's 41 years old. When he was 9 years old, He was arrested for crossing the North Korean border and spent 25 years in prison. Berlin introduces himself without any other intention, just to reassure the hostages so that they won't do anything out of control. He only hopes that the hostages can cooperate, and everyone can be safe and sound. While preparing for work, Anne actively goes to find Huang, hoping that he can cooperate with her and reveal the situation inside to the police. However, the vice president doesn't want to get involved in trouble, so he rejects Anne's proposal. But unexpectedly, Young Min suddenly appears, encouraging the two of them to pass the information onto the police. Without thinking, Anne immediately agrees. If anything happens, she alone will take responsibility. Huang is quickly persuaded by the two of them. He takes out some newly printed money and gives it to Anne. Anne has written a few important things on it. At this time, the gang has occupied the Royal Mint for 98 hours. Wu Jin, bearing an important mission, bravely enters the tiger's den alone, only to confirm the safety of the hostages. Moreover, the entire process is being recorded live. The relatives of the hostages and the media are all watching. Berlin has revealed his identity. He decisively appears in front of the camera himself. After all, there's nothing to fear anymore. After the two politely shake hands, Berlin takes Wu Jin to the waiting hall and has she confirm the safety of each hostage one by one. The first person to appear is Young Min. He expresses his thoughts to his family and friends in front of the camera. The next people to appear all say that they're doing well in here, completely keeping silent about the shooting that happened before. When it's Anne's turn, she's already crying before she can even say 2 sentences. Seeing this, Wu Jin goes over to comfort her. Anne sees the opportunity and prepares to hand over the money that she prepared in advance. Unexpectedly, Wu Jin is spotted by Tokyo. Tokyo uses the excuse that Anne is too emotional to take her away from the scene. Anne's little plot has been exposed. She actively admits that this is her own personal behavior. Tokyo reminds her to obediently listen to them. If there's a next time, then they won't let her off so easily. Wu Jin feels that confirming each hostage one by one is taking too long, so she suggests that Berlin gather all the hostages together. That way, the efficiency will be high and the time. After getting Tokyo's agreement, Berlin releases all the hostages, having them stand in neat rows in the center of the waiting hall. Seeing this, Wu Jin takes out the list and starts to confirm each person. All the hostages are present, but one person is missing. The security guard who was recently hired, Chul Wu. After Berlin hears this, he clearly says that there's no such person among the hostages. However, Wu Jin still insists. She takes out a photo and tells everyone to look carefully. Something must have happened with yesterday's gunfire. Facing Wu Jin's questioning, Anne hesitates for a moment, then says that she has seen this person. After saying only half of this, Anne is quickly stopped by Tokyo. Young Min also stands up and starts making noise. Berlin, being forced, has no choice but to directly say that Chul Wu is a spy sent by the police. Their actions were only for self-defense. Hearing the answer that she wanted, Wu Jin takes the opportunity to throw the dirty water on the gang, saying that they broke their promise, harming innocent people without reason. According to the opinions that the public has given, most are calling for armed suppression. But for the safety of the hostages, the police tried to coordinate negotiations. But now, the situation has turned out like this. I'm afraid that just having a dialogue can't resolve it, unless they agree to release the innocent students. This isn't her opinion, but the wish of the entire people. While the live broadcast is progressing very smoothly, someone hands the director a USB drive. On it there are 2 words, report. At this time, inside the waiting hall, everyone is preparing to welcome a very important guest. Pulling down the mask, unbelievably, this person is the police officer, Chul Wu. But he was clearly dead. So, how could he appear in this place? On the night of the incident, Berlin had clearly eliminated him, even aiming for the heart. But unexpectedly, the other party was wearing a bulletproof vest. There wasn't any problem. Mainly, Berlin respected the professor's instructions. He didn't harm anyone. But without thinking, if there was no bulletproof vest, that bullet would have directly put into his brain, not his chest. Luckily, Berlin respected the principles. They were able to seize this opportunity and turn defeat into victory, spreading the news that Chul Wu had died to the outside. It was just a smoke bomb that they used to distract the police. After the contents inside the USB drive were released, everyone turned to criticize the police. In order to catch the gang, they carried out a forceful suppression, disregarding the lives of the hostages. Having gone through this, the wave of public opinion once again turned towards the police. This time, Berlin did a great job. Tokyo couldn't help but praise him a few times. While the atmosphere is very nice, Moscow suddenly runs over in a state of exhaustion, holding a handful of yellow soil. After many days of hard work, they finally have a hope of getting out. The money printing has also been relatively successful. In another 2 or 3 days, they'll be able to have their own freedom. Thinking of this, the gang members are very happy. But some people are happy, and some are sad. Leaving also means that Denver will have to break up with Mi-sun. Denver isn't a weak person. He wants to help Mi-sun change her bandages one last time before leaving. Mi-sun has agreed to give him this opportunity. The two of them, a man and a woman, are alone in a room. Mi-sun thought that something would happen, but Denver tells her to forget him, forget all the things that happened here. After leaving, she must live well, but no matter whether she met the gang or met Denver, there are no small things that she can forget. Mi-sun has decided that after leaving, she'll find a new job. She's not going to continue working at the Royal Mint. Denver thought that it was because of Young Min. He angrily wanted to teach him a lesson. Mi-sun looks at Denver, unable to restrain her feelings, and kisses him on the lips. Denver also can't help but return her kiss. The two begin to have a deeper exchange. Denver's matter has been resolved. But Berlin on this side seems relatively serious. He can only depend on drugs to relieve the pain. Because the police's actions this time and the response from public opinion weren't very good, there needed to be someone who took responsibility, and that person wasn't anyone but Captain Cha. Wu Jin is not convinced of the leader's decision. If they replace the captain, they should include her too. Captain Cha thanks Wu Jin for speaking up for him, but there are a few words that he still needs to say. Captain Cha has always felt that Wu Jin's new boyfriend has some problems. Wu Jin doesn't like to hear these kinds of words the most. Although the two of them have only been in contact for a short time, Wu Jin knows that he's not that kind of person. The most important thing is that she loves and trusts him very much. The professor hears these words from Wu Jin. In his heart, a feeling that can't be spoken suddenly appears. Could this be love? Recently, there have been too many things that have caused Wu Jin to worry. She has arranged to go have a few drinks with the professor to clear up her mood. While together with Wu Jin, the professor will give up his identity as the head of the gang. He'll go back to being the owner of the coffee shop, discussing the future with Wu Jin, as if all the sins have disappeared. After the two finish drinking, they walk home together. The professor has told Wu Jin words from the bottom of his heart, hoping that she won't interfere in the robbery at the Royal Mint anymore. Seeing that Wu Jin seems to be exhausted with this case, Wu Jin feels his care. She immediately throws herself into the professor's arms. It seems that all the worries at this time have disappeared. The soldier who lives according to reason, Wu Jin, has been revived with blood. The professor barely had a day to relax, but fate likes to tease him. Wu Jin accidentally takes out a corner of a bill printed from inside the Royal Mint from her pocket. This is a key clue that will help change the entire situation. In reality, that day, when Tokyo discovered Anne's plot, she secretly tore a corner of the bill, then used the opportunity to shove it into Wu Jin's pocket. After Wu Jin discovered that important clue, she quickly said goodbye to the professor. The professor sensed that something was happening. He also quickly returned to the cafe. The moment he pushed the door open, a man's voice came from behind him. It was Captain Cha, wanting to talk to him for a bit. Wu Jin goes straight to the command center and tells everyone about the clue of a corner of paper money. This helped them solve the most important mystery. What the gang is doing inside is printing money. Wu Jin is about to relay this news to Captain Cha, but at this time the captain is busy investigating the professor, so he hasn't answered the phone. Someone raises a question. Printing money is unreasonable. How will they solve the problem of the serial numbers? They'll easily be traced. It's impossible to use. But thinking about it, there's also a hacker in the gang. Adding a printing expert isn't strange. If the gang's purpose in dragging things out really is to print a large amount of money inside the Royal Mint, then they need to change their approach. Normally, for such a big matter, they need to report it to higher-ups to facilitate getting expert advice. Can the money that's printed be circulated in the market? However, right now, everything is just speculation. There's no evidence. First, they need to confirm the electricity consumption in the Royal Mint. That way, they'll be able to prove that their speculation is true. Meanwhile, Captain Cha starts to probe the professor. This coffee shop took 2 months to prepare. Why hasn't it officially opened yet? The professor can only say that it's because he hasn't finished market research. The flavor of the drinks doesn't fit the local customs, so he still needs to replan it. Captain Cha then uses the excuse of needing to go to the bathroom to observe the architectural structure of this place. Unexpectedly, he actually finds a very suspicious place. It looks like a warehouse. Captain Cha is preparing to pull up the cloth on the table when the professor immediately appears. Captain Cha quickly stops the movement in his hand, hurriedly resolving the awkward atmosphere. Then, he pretends that he was too curious and lifted the cloth on the table without permission. It's just an architectural model. The professor says that it's his personal hobby, then orders him to leave. Captain Cha uses the opportunity to take an object placed on the table, preparing to check for fingerprints. The professor discovers that Captain Cha has taken something. He realizes that Captain Cha has started to suspect him. Inside the Royal Mint, everyone is working in an orderly manner. Some hostages have begun to feel dissatisfied with the police. They only care about rescuing the ambassador's daughter, and they don't care about the lives of ordinary people. This is inevitable. Reality is always so cruel. The ambassador has also reminded them that if anything happens to Anne, he will immediately stop economic cooperation between the two countries. The difficult problem has fallen onto the heads of the South Korean government. To protect Anne, they can't help but use force to suppress the gang. If they don't use force to suppress, then they can only drag things out with the robbers. The longer they drag things out, the more money they'll print. The government will also be labeled as useless and incompetent, and will become a laughingstock of the international community. It seems like it's a dead end, but anything is possible. As long as they open their minds, there will be a way to break the situation. Inside the command center, Wu Jin has confirmed that the electricity consumption is very high, so she has reported the matter to higher-ups. But there isn't any response from above. They only say that they're having a meeting to discuss a solution, requesting them not to act too rashly. They even ordered them to remove all surveillance activities on the Royal Mint. At this time, there's suddenly a commotion outside. The government publicly expresses its attitude. If the gang agrees to release the hostages, then they'll be exempted from all criminal liability. This is a solution to break the situation. The gang knows very well that what they're doing will be prosecuted. No matter how much money they earn, life is more important. Right now, they can keep their lives, and it would be a lie to say that they're not moved. The professor suddenly calls. Rio has hacked Captain Cha's phone. The professor tells him to cooperate with him. They need to do something to counter Captain Cha's actions. Not long after, someone sneaks into the office while no one is there. A face suddenly appears on the phone screen. It's unclear who has been swayed. Chief Kim, who is responsible for this case, very quickly receives a phone call and successfully reaches a final agreement with the other party. Not long after, Anne, who is hiding in the bathroom, suddenly receives a note. "I will help you escape. 1 p.m. Come to the vault." Anne pushes the door open, but the person is already gone. Kim's sudden interference makes Woo Jin feel a little strange. This matter seems to have gone off its original course. The Ministry of Finance suddenly transmits news that the output of the Royal Mint is fixed each year. The serial numbers are also fixed. Normally, the money that the gang prints can't be used, but the scary thing lies behind this. For economic cooperation between the two countries, the Royal Mint has reserved a fund for printing money. The money amounts to 4 trillion. Woo Jin immediately goes to find Kim. This ex-husband has never brought her a sense of peace. His arrogant attitude and the news that was accidentally revealed have made Woo Jin understand something. A robber has contacted Kim. Moreover, they've reached an agreement. After dealing with Anne, they'll carry out an armed suppression. This is no different from a witch hunt. There will definitely be retribution, even affecting their children and grandchildren. Woo Jin then advises Kim to stop his actions, but he doesn't listen at all, resolutely wanting to follow his plan. Woo Jin hurriedly contacts the professor. Although the two sides are in a state of opposition, they still have a common understanding and thoughts on some issues. For example, not letting anyone die. Woo Jin kindly reminds the professor that there's someone in his gang who has rebelled. She doesn't know who that person is, but she knows what he wants to do. Eliminate Anne, causing them to lose the support of public opinion, facilitating the armed suppression. This is the biggest crisis since the robbery happened. Anne absolutely can't die, at least not in their hands. Everyone immediately splits up to search. Young Min sees that the atmosphere is very tense. He guesses that it's related to Anne. Anne is still naively believing that there really is someone who wants to save her. Rio investigates the security camera and discovers that 20 minutes ago, someone went to get a bomb. Then the security camera under the vault was also tampered with by someone. Tokyo takes the lead and hurriedly runs there. At the same time, Anne has also opened the vault door. The bomb is right above her head. By the time Tokyo catches up, Anne isn't there. The countdown has also just ended. Rio immediately rushes over like a rocket. The bomb has shocked the hostages, but at this time, Anne has actively returned. Luckily, no one was injured in this bomb explosion, but it also had a non-negligible impact. The seeds of suspicion begin to sprout and spread throughout the gang. The reason why Anne is unharmed is that she felt that it wasn't appropriate to escape alone. She knows that her identity is special. If she's not here, the police won't have anything to worry about, and everyone will be in danger. This thought of Anne's causes the hostages, who have separated from each other, to unite once again. They no longer trust the police, nor do they place any hope in the robber's pity. They must grasp their own future and destiny, but how can they grasp it with their bare hands? Anne has a way. While running away, Anne accidentally discovered Chul Wu. She knows where the person who can fight is being held captive. At the same time, the professor has told Woo Jin that the matter has been resolved. Anne is completely safe and sound. This time, thanks to Woo Jin's reminder. The professor is truly grateful to her. But what Woo Jin needs isn't thanks, but reciprocation. For example, revealing some internal information. The professor's attitude is extremely firm. He refuses to reveal anything. Woo Jin once again launches an attack. She knows that the professor isn't inside the Royal Mint. He's hiding in some corner, quietly observing the situation and directing the operation. She has only one question. What is the real purpose of planning this robbery? The professor's answer is, for money. Under the circumstances of not harming anyone, try to earn as much money as possible. After ending the call, Woo Jin wants to restart the surveillance operation, acting on her own and not following the orders of the higher-ups anymore. The higher-ups basically don't care about the lives of the people. If something happens, they'll still be the ones to take responsibility. Right now, with every second that passes, the gang will print a lot of money. What she needs to do is only 2 things. Stop the gang and rescue the hostages safely. The latter is relatively difficult to implement, but stopping the printing of money is very simple. Directly cut off the power there. But in reality, it's not as simple as she says. The Royal Mint is a key unit, and cutting off the power needs to be approved. Woo Jin wants to be more decisive, not wanting to follow the right procedure. If Kim and the professor find out, then they'll very likely lose the opportunity. Just then, someone discovered that when the hostage's phone wasn't being wiretapped, it had contacted the outside. It wasn't a phone call but a text message. Kim is trying to contact the gang, finding out what he wants to do. The answer is, I'll wait and see the police's moves. The sender and receiver of the message are Captain Cha. This is the professor's trick. Whoever is faster wins. Before Captain Cha unveils his true identity, the professor has taken a step ahead, turning Captain Cha into a traitor. This text message was forged by Rio. The call has also been intercepted. Captain Cha is currently waiting for the test results at the National Forensic Center when the police suddenly run over and arrest him, saying that he has leaked internal news to the gang. Captain Cha immediately barges into the lab and locks the door from the inside. After getting the results, he immediately runs away. At the same time, Berlin is also suspecting that Rio is the traitor. Rio shouts injustice, saying that he's innocent. But no matter how he explains, Berlin still doesn't believe him. The professor hurriedly interferes, saying that there must be a traitor, but they absolutely can't suspect each other. Once the mutual trust is broken, the situation will completely become out of control. The matter that happened inside the Royal Mint, first handed over to Tokyo to solve. The professor needs to go solve that troublesome Cha. Captain Cha has learned of his identity. He has also told this news to someone else. At the same time, he has also arranged to meet the other party and talk. Wu Jin still can't contact Captain Cha. After hearing that he has escaped, she is in a state of chaos. Yesterday, Captain Cha said that he suspected a certain person of being the professor. Why has he become a spy today? Wu Jin suddenly remembers something. When Captain Cha mentioned the professor, he also asked about her new boyfriend. Wu Jin immediately confirms this matter. Meanwhile, Captain Cha is going to Wu Jin's house. Before he can even enter, the professor suddenly appears. Although the professor can't knock him out, he has a tranquilizer on him. But when the professor pulls the person into the car, this scene is witnessed by Wu Jin's mother. The professor immediately finds himself in a dilemma. Should he act or not act? Wu Jin's mother has picked up the phone, preparing to call her daughter. The professor slowly approaches from behind her. At the crucial moment, Wu Jin's mother's Alzheimer's disease acts up again. She didn't remember that she had called her daughter. She also didn't know what she was calling for. The professor was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. At least he didn't need to harm anyone. The professor switched to another car at the gas station. It turned out the two other people had driven the car away. At the same time, Denver started discussing the traitor with his dad. Nairobi is busy managing Helsinki and Oslo. One is stupid, and one is an idiot. They're busy managing the hostages. They're not the type of people who would betray. Continue to eliminate the two of them. Then, there aren't many people left. Meanwhile, Anne is mixing into the cooking team. She has secretly stuffed a note into the meal that's being delivered to Chul Wu. An uprising is about to begin again. Young Min uses the excuse of having a stomachache to go to the bathroom. Under Denver's escort, he takes out the tools that he wrapped around himself and quietly drops them into the toilet. Next, it's the police officer Chul Wu's turn to go to the bathroom. He takes out the tools that were left in the toilet. It seems that the Royal Mint is about to welcome a new round of chaos. The professor is currently entangled with Wu Jin and can't break away. He feels that her attitude is a little off. Before he can even clarify the situation, Wu Jin has raised a gun, aiming straight at the professor, asking him why he wanted to approach her. Without waiting for the professor to answer, Wu Jin forces him to go to that secret base. Luckily, the professor had prepared for this in advance. He has packed up all his belongings inside. Wu Jin lowers her gun and sincerely apologizes to the professor. Captain Cha is being pursued for leaking internal secrets. He's a very trustworthy person. The last time the two of them talked, he mentioned the professor. That's why she wanted to come here to confirm it. However, the professor doesn't accept this apology. He unilaterally declares that he wants to end their relationship. This isn't a decision that was made out of temporary emotion. Before turning back, the professor had this thought. Originally, Wu Jin was just a pawn being used, but the professor has been getting more and more deeply involved in this relationship, causing Wu Jin to become his weakness. If they continue this relationship, then the price that has to be paid will be very heavy. That's why it must be ended. Meanwhile, Rio is starting to cause trouble. Berlin has always suspected that he's the traitor. No matter how he explains, it's no use. Berlin also isn't blindly judging. First, it's because Rio still has family. Perhaps he'll choose to compromise for the sake of his family and not be reckless. And he also doesn't have any worries like the others. Second, it's because Rio is in charge of the surveillance. It's very easy to be able to do something. Berlin raises his gun, aiming straight at him. Tokyo, seeing this, immediately stops his action. She advises Berlin to calm down a bit, not to act rashly. At the same time, Oslo is on the way to deliver food to Chul Wu. Unexpectedly, he has a weapon in his hand. The professor has just finished installing all the equipment and immediately discovers that the situation inside the Royal Mint isn't good. He hurriedly calls, but Tokyo is confronting Berlin and doesn't have time to answer this important call. Just then, Hin also jumps in to join the fun. All the power inside the Royal Mint is cut off. The hostages' counterattack has officially begun. Hin's action has exceeded everyone's expectations. The professor has lost control of the situation inside the Royal Mint. Oslo has also lost its life. Young Min is also very confused. The power outage wasn't in the plan. Mi-sun now knows that Young Min is causing trouble behind their backs. Right now isn't the time for internal conflicts. Tokyo advises everyone to control the situation first. Chul Wu goes to the hostages, preparing to lead everyone to escape from here. Just then, Helsinki suddenly comes to check on the situation. As a result, he's ambushed and knocked out by Chul Wu. Those other people immediately run away. Tokyo starts assigning tasks to everyone. Rio will guard the office. She'll go turn on the emergency power. Berlin and Nairobi will manage the hostages. Denver and Moscow have reunited with the two. At this time, while struggling, Helsinki accidentally pulls the trigger. The sound of the gunshot attracts everyone's attention. The four of them immediately follow the sound of the gunshot, searching for the location. Tokyo is going to turn on the emergency power. Helsinki falls to the ground. Luckily, he's still alive. The professor sees that the power has been restored. He immediately calls Rio, who's stationed inside the office. Rio quickly picks up the phone. The professor is trying to maintain his composure. He glances in the direction from which the hostages are escaping. The professor realizes that they're running out of the loading area. Rio hurriedly relays the news to everyone. Chul Wu is relatively cunning. He didn't go with everyone. He chose to act alone. At the same time, the hostages have stopped in the loading area. The door has a bomb attached. They can't escape. Just when everyone doesn't know what to do, someone risks their life to push the cart towards the bomb. At the crucial moment, Denver immediately rushes over, advising everyone to calm down a bit. If this bomb explodes, then everyone will die. The members of the gang also appear one after another. The situation is temporarily under control. Rio quickly reports back to the professor. Just after hanging up the phone, the professor gently frowns and immediately calls back. Before Rio can pick up, Chul Wu suddenly barges into the room. Rio's specialty leans towards technology, not fighting. Chul Wu quickly subdues Rio. Then, he immediately contacts the command center, saying that he'll take the hostages to the roof and requesting Wu Jin to quickly send reinforcements. The special forces team immediately departs. Chul Wu glances at the camera above. At this time, he realizes that the professor is watching this place. After a series of gunshots, the whole place is destroyed. Unexpectedly, this shooting has other gains as well. It's the medicine that Berlin has been hiding. Over here, Berlin has just controlled the hostages when the door is blown open. Because the lives of the hostages are involved, the police don't dare to shoot recklessly. Berlin's group frantically counterattacks, but the other side has bulletproof shields. The counterattack is ineffective. Seeing that the other side is gradually getting closer, Tokyo suddenly rushes over, using a heavy machine gun to suppress the fire. This heavy weapon is so powerful that the shield can't withstand it. The police are forced to retreat step by step. Berlin and Denver immediately go to push the shelves. Moscow also comes to help the two of them. Chul Wu uses the chaos to urge the hostages to run away quickly. Wu Jin, on the outside, is cooperating closely, having people spread air cushions under the building. The police have been pushed back, and the gap has been blocked, but they don't see the shadows of the hostages anymore. Rio hurriedly runs over to report the news. The hostages plan to escape from the roof. They immediately chase up to the place. Those who are running slowly have been blocked. Young Min, who was originally dragging Mi-sun, saw that he didn't have enough strength. He immediately chooses to abandon her. A group of hostages has run up to the roof. The air cushion below is being inflated. Denver has caught up with Mi-sun, but he chooses not to stop her. Instead, he tells her to run quickly. Tokyo runs up to the place, but the door leading to the roof has been locked from the outside. Chul Wu is directing everyone to quickly retreat, prioritizing women. Young Min doesn't care about old or young, male or female, fighting to get to the front. The equipment has been put on completely, but the rope is stuck, suspending him in midair. The others start to get impatient. If he doesn't come down, then no one can escape from here. Seeing that the air cushion has been inflated, people are jumping down one after another. This time, it's Young Min's turn to start getting anxious. He sees each person successfully escaping, but he's suspended in midair, unable to move. At this time, Berlin has also reached the place. With just one bullet, he's able to destroy the door lock. Seeing the most important hostage, Anne, preparing to escape, Berlin immediately reaches out with one hand to hold the rope tightly. The other hand tightly hugs Anne. Tokyo also immediately comes to help. Mi-sun, on the side, also runs over to help. After having to go through so much, after losing one life and a lot of effort, a hostage did escape, and the police have been a step closer to winning and have made a huge step. Wu Jin has issued a warning to the gang through the media. They won't have any other path to take other than surrendering. The professor is still maintaining his composure. As long as Anne hasn't escaped, then they still have a chance. At the same time, Moscow is welding the door shut. Denver suddenly gets agitated and runs over. Oslo is dead. This matter has brought a huge shock to them. The most saddened person is Helsinki. Everyone has taken Oslo to a neat place, deciding that when they can get out, they'll take him with them. Then, they'll choose a place to bury him. Tokyo doesn't get angry at the hostages. She only warns everyone to take care of themselves. If there's still a next time, then they can't guarantee everyone's safety. Because the number of hostages has decreased, the work also needs to be redistributed from the start. However, only Young Min, who is afraid of death, is willing to listen. The others are all showing a very indifferent attitude. Berlin then steps forward to issue threats, but it's not met with submission, but with greater solidarity. Moreover, in this situation, they can't use coercive measures. It will have the opposite effect. They can only put the hostages aside first and go back to discuss countermeasures. The professor has never taught them how to deal with this situation. Moreover, right now, they can't be contacted. The only person they can rely on is themselves. Berlin stares at the shattered medicine bottle on the ground. His hand uncontrollably starts to shake. Tokyo suggests that everyone should first restore their work and continue printing money. But Berlin's suggestion is to find the traitor first. Looking at his appearance, it seems that he has completely lost his mind. The internal conflict erupts fiercely again, but it doesn't last long. Nairobi, standing on the side, has a bit of a soft heart. It turns out that the person who betrayed the organization is her. The person who has swayed Nairobi is her own flesh and blood. If Nairobi doesn't do what Kim said, he'll take her son to the poorest place in the country, causing her to be unable to find him for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, the professor has gone to a place where Captain Cha is being held. The professor has told his teammate this news, asking her to help him pay attention to Wu Jin. Over here, Wu Jin has also made a breakthrough. From the accounts of the hostages who managed to escape, they've been able to confirm the appearance of each member of the gang. They've even grasped more important information. Among the robbers, there's one person who has an illness. This is a hereditary disease that can't be cured. They can only use medicine to alleviate it. The group of Tokyo has also discovered this problem. Although Wu Jin doesn't know who that person is, she's very clear on one thing. No matter how much money the gang prints, they won't be able to spend it. So, what is their real purpose? Such a confidential matter, like the 4 trillion in reserve, Wu Jin had never known before. Perhaps it's to prevent economic negotiations, not to actually steal money. At this time, news suddenly comes that the director of the concentration camp where Berlin was imprisoned is the representative of this round of economic negotiations. He'll be naturalized today. Wu Jin begins to suspect that this robbery has a political purpose. She tells her subordinates to go investigate the origins of this medicine, see if they can find any new clues. Berlin is a very strong person. Although he doesn't have the medicine, he can still overcome the illness. If everyone already knows about his illness, then he doesn't need to hide it anymore. Tokyo starts to suspect Berlin's purpose in joining this plan. The illness can't be cured. Why does he need so much money? This is Berlin's secret. He can't tell. It's the same as Tokyo joining the gang. It's not just for the money. However, Berlin can guarantee that he will risk his life to complete this plan. Tokyo can also do this. Tokyo has always been the most loyal believer in the professor. She listens to the professor's instructions and everything. But right now, with this situation happening and not being able to contact him, she feels that the professor isn't reliable anymore. After all, people should still rely on themselves. Berlin silently holds the knife in his hand, using the opportunity to take Tokyo hostage. He suspects that she's the traitor. Rio hurriedly advises Berlin to calm down a bit. Helsinki, hearing the commotion, also quickly runs over. The two sides have their own opinions, but he chooses to listen to Berlin. Before entering, he had talked to the professor. He only listens to the professor's orders and then to Berlin's. Rio is quickly subdued by them. At the same time, Wu Jin's mother has remembered a few things. That night, she called her daughter. She doesn't know what she wanted to talk about, only remembers that it was related to the professor. Wu Jin doesn't want to think too deeply about that. If she doesn't remember, then forget it. After all, the two of them have already broken up. Wu Jin has just left the house when she receives a message. They've found a clue related to that medicine. Some time ago, someone bought it in large quantities. From the security camera, it can be seen that the car disappeared near a mountain, and there's only one abandoned resort in that place. Wu Jin feels that perhaps the professor is hiding in this place, so she prepares to go there to find him. The professor's teammate is secretly following her. Seeing that Wu Jin is going in the wrong direction, not to the mint, she informs the professor, there's a tracking device on Wu Jin's car. The professor has followed her there. Seeing Wu Jin lead people inside the resort, he knows that she has come to the right place. In this place, there are the belongings that the professor left behind. Meanwhile, Tokyo and Rio are being tied up on a table. Helsinki has called the others over. Berlin directly says that the traitor is one of the two of them. Tokyo desperately shakes her head looking at Rio, but Rio wants to protect her, loudly saying that he's the traitor. Berlin opens the door of the Royal Mint. The crisis response team is very surprised. They don't know what's happening. Seeing Berlin wanting to take Rio out, Denver and Moscow hurriedly run over, pleading. With Rio's timid personality, how could he be the traitor? He just wants to save Tokyo. Berlin immediately changes his choice. Using the opportunity when everyone isn't paying attention, he pushes Tokyo out. The police officer who is standing guard nearby immediately runs over. This ridiculous scene has caught everyone off guard. Before they can even clarify what's going on, the door of the Royal Mint is opened again. Berlin with Anne appeared. He asks for the police to bring the director of the concentration camp, who likes to subjugate others, Jae-yoon, here. If they can't do it, then they should just admit that Anne is dead. The situation has completely lost control and is developing in a completely different direction. If Berlin continues to act crazy, then the professor's plan will be completely destroyed. But is Berlin really acting crazy? Not really. He and the professor are brothers. This entire plan was first proposed by their dad. This is also to fulfill his wish. Berlin has to complete this plan, even if he has to risk his life. At the same time, Wu Jin, inside the secret base, has discovered a few documents. They're roughly about wanting to prevent economic negotiations, also known as the summit. It's completely the same as what she had predicted. The professor's purpose isn't money. However, she still feels that this matter is a bit strange. At this time, the professor has decided to press the detonator in his hand. The countdown timer starts to ring out. The police have also discovered the bomb. They immediately evacuated the scene. Luckily, it was a time bomb. After the bomb exploded, the police evacuated from there. The gang member reported back to the professor about the situation at the Royal Mint. She felt that Berlin's head was filled with water and that he wanted to meet Jae-yoon. So what are they going to do after that? The professor advised her to stay calm. He knows and understands Berlin's methods. Right now isn't the time to talk about these things. The professor prepares to meet his teammate. Before that, he still needs her to help him do a few things. Wu Jin has returned to the command center. They finally understood the gang's purpose. On the surface, they broke into the Royal Mint and took the hostages in order to attract public attention. In reality, the real purpose is to prevent the summit from taking place normally. Wu Jin feels that this matter is still very strange. If the professor wanted to destroy clues, then he would have blown up the place long ago. Why did he have to wait until they discovered the clues before detonating it? Perhaps that clue is what he intentionally wanted them to see. Berlin is also very strange. He inexplicably expelled his teammate and demanded to meet Jae-yoon. Moreover, it also happened to be when they lost contact with the professor. This makes Wu Jin unable to help but suspect the other party's true purpose. The higher-ups feel the complete opposite. The gang inside the Royal Mint can't contact the professor, so they're starting to worry. That's why the internal conflict happened. All of this is just speculation by the two of them. Right now, Tokyo is in their hands. Going to find her to confirm it will tell them the truth. Wu Jin takes out the photo that was taken at the scene. She says that she has learned of the professor's purpose. They broke in and occupied the royal mint, not for money, but for other political purposes. Hearing this, Tokyo laughs non-stop. What political purpose? She doesn't know. She only knows that following the professor will allow her to get rich. The implication is that she's doing this completely for the money. As for why she was expelled by her teammate, it's because Berlin suspected that she was a spy. In order to confirm whether what Tokyo said is the truth, Wu Jin has someone bring a lie detector. Then, she starts to ask again, from the beginning, the reason why Tokyo was expelled. In the beginning, it was relatively stable. But when she mentioned the professor, the lie detector suddenly showed fluctuations. Wu Jin then guesses that Tokyo has met the professor. Tokyo doesn't deny it. She says that the professor is just like other normal people. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. There's nothing special. Seeing Tokyo's uncooperative appearance, Wu Jin suddenly opens her mouth and asks a question. You really were expelled by them? As soon as she finishes speaking, the frequency displayed on the lie detector has a very large fluctuation. Tokyo is extremely angry. She kicks the lie detector away with 1 foot. She says that she's also just a victim. The police immediately came forward to control Tokyo. She is constantly yelling. The higher-ups, seeing this, directly move Tokyo to another place. To him, continuing the interrogation like this is useless. Just now, Tokyo almost harmed Wu Jin. Moreover, right now, there are reporters everywhere outside. In order to avoid an accident, the higher-ups decide to take Tokyo back to the police station and keep her there. Sitting inside the police car, Tokyo remembers what happened inside the Royal Mint. When Berlin prepared to push her out, Nairobi suddenly ran over to stop him. She admitted that she was the traitor. Everything was done by Nairobi alone. At the beginning, when she was thrown into prison, her young son didn't have anyone to take care of him. He was taken to an orphanage. Somehow, he ended up in Kim's hands. He used the boy to threaten Nairobi. She had no choice but to listen. Just as she finishes speaking, Tokyo suddenly stands up and gets out of the car. It turns out that all of this was a plan between her and Berlin. The main purpose was to lure out the traitor. In reality, the two of them not only had this plan, but they also originally planned to expel Tokyo from the Royal Mint, pretending that internal conflict had occurred, causing Tokyo to be arrested by the police. They believed that after the professor received this news, he would disregard everything and save Tokyo. That way, Tokyo would be able to tell the professor about the entire situation that was happening inside the Royal Mint. The professor would also be able to build corresponding measures depending on how the situation developed, including resolving the issue related to Nairobi's son. Rio is worried about Tokyo's safety. He doesn't agree with this plan, but if they don't do this, then they won't be able to contact the professor. If they can't contact the professor, this Royal Mint will sooner or later be stormed by the police. In reality, when they first started, Berlin knew that Rio wasn't the traitor. However, in order to deceive the others and also to lure the traitor to reveal themselves, they couldn't help but do this. The escort car will reach its destination in about 10 minutes. At this time, a car suddenly appears in the middle of the road, completely blocking the police's path. Before they can get out of the car, 2 motorcycles appear from behind, quickly spraying black paint on all the car's windows. Then, they install a bomb on the car. The Special Forces team immediately requests assistance from headquarters, but the other party is also carrying a jamming device. Headquarters can't hear what they're saying clearly. Seeing that the countdown timer on the bomb is running out, the Special Forces team can't sit still anymore. They immediately jump out of the car, directly falling and rolling on the ground. Unexpectedly, the bomb doesn't explode. They have basically jumped into the trap themselves. At the same time, the command center suddenly receives a phone call from the police station. The escort car for Tokyo still hasn't arrived. Moreover, they can't be contacted. Wu Jin then guesses that the escort car has probably been attacked. This also says that there's not only the professor outside, there must be teammates helping him. It was the professor's teammate from the outside who helped. Tokyo was successfully rescued. The girl introduced herself perfunctorily. This girl's alias is Seum, a subordinate of Berlin. Meanwhile, Kim has come to the command center. He treats this case as an attack on a disruptive anti-government target. So, starting from now on, this case will be under the management of the counter-terrorism forces. Except for the higher-ups, other irrelevant people have all left, including Wu Jin. Along with Kim is also coming here, Jae-yoon, who is the person that Berlin specifically wanted to meet. Kim is planning to use him to attract Berlin's attention, then order the counter-terrorism forces to quickly attack. Wu Jin resolutely disagrees. If they do that, the hostages will be in danger. Whether the hostages are in danger or not is irrelevant to Kim. He doesn't want to see Wu Jin anymore. The higher-ups, seeing this, immediately order Wu Jin to leave, telling her to go home to rest and not to interfere in this case anymore. A subordinate suddenly goes to report the situation. The escort car for Tokyo has indeed been attacked. At this time, Wu Jin has understood that the gang intentionally expelled their teammate to the outside. However, what she can't understand is why they had to do this. Could it be to contact the professor? Or is there something that happened inside the Royal Mint that they can't resolve? It seems that the subordinate knows something. The robber was persuaded by Kim, wanting to eliminate Anne. That person will be given a reduced sentence. Why would he agree to harm someone unless Kim has grasped his weakness? He is definitely here to deal with this matter. Meanwhile, Tokyo and the professor have been able to contact each other. Based on the clues that Tokyo provided, the professor has been able to investigate that Kim has a villa under his name. It was bought under a borrowed name. Because this is a very inconspicuous place, it's extremely suitable to use as a secret base. If he captured and hid Nairobi's son, then it's very likely that it's in this place. At the same time, Jae-yoon and the counterterrorism forces have prepared everything, waiting until 8:00 to begin negotiations with Berlin. There are still 30 minutes until the negotiations begin. Woo-jin's subordinate has investigated that among the people who were summoned by Kim to the live broadcast, besides the relatives of the hostages, there are also the relatives of the gang members, including Nairobi's son. Kim has taken the boy away, using the excuse of doing a live broadcast, but still hasn't taken the child back to the orphanage. If the child has really been taken away by him, then Woo-jin knows where Nairobi's son is being hidden. After all, she had lived with Kim for many years. There are still 10 minutes until the negotiations begin. Tokyo and Seyum have arrived at the place they need to go. After observing and confirming that the child is inside the villa, they immediately begin to act. They understand the professor's principle of not harming anyone, so they've replaced all the bullets in their guns with rubber bullets. They open the camera on their chest, put on masks, and then secretly sneak into the villa. They easily subdue the bodyguard on the first floor. At this time, the time for the negotiations has arrived. Jae-yoon and Berlin appear together as agreed. The scene is full of reporters. They're all broadcasting the progress of the negotiations live. Berlin angrily reprimands Jae-yoon, demanding that he explain what he did inside the prison camp. Jae-yoon bombastically calls his actions fulfilling the responsibilities that he was assigned. As for the torture, starvation, and death that Berlin mentioned, he admits that he had done that. However, he has also paid the price for those actions. In the beginning, Jae-yoon's daughter was working at the infirmary of the prison camp. Berlin raped his daughter, then callously eliminated her. Just as he finishes speaking, the expressions of the gang members are very shocked. At the same time, public opinion also starts to lean towards the police. Kim is very satisfied with Jae-yoon's methods. Even if that will agitate Berlin, causing casualties among the hostages, he doesn't care at all, even feeling that it's an unavoidable sacrifice. While Kim is feeling pleased with himself, the situation suddenly changes. Someone is live streaming a battle. The number of viewers is constantly increasing. Looking closely, it's actually the gang inside the Royal Mint. Everyone is talking about why the gang would live stream a battle like this. With the movement of the scene in front of them, a young boy suddenly appears before the camera. The viewers are all speculating that the child is being tied up. At the same time, Woo-jin has also arrived outside the villa, seeing that the bodyguards have all been subdued, lying face down on the ground. She immediately calls her subordinates, leading them to come here for support. Just as she hangs up the phone, Woo-jin encounters Tokyo's group, who are preparing to leave. The two sides face off with guns. Woo-jin knows that Tokyo came here to save the child. However, this also won't cause her to become a hero. Stealing is evil. Carrying the boy away will put him in danger. Tokyo thinks about it, and it's indeed like that. So she soothes the child, saying that Hin is a police officer. She'll protect him. She won't let the bad uncles capture him. After saying this, she pulls the boy, who's tightly hugging her thigh, away, telling the boy to go to Woo-jin's side. Seeing Nairobi's son is safe, Tokyo gets into the car and quickly leaves. Meanwhile, Jae-yoon is still enduring the pain and pouring out his grievances. At that time, the conditions of the prison camp were still very limited. It was common for criminals to starve to death. He also didn't have any other way. Moreover, he has also paid a corresponding price. Although Jae-yoon's deceased daughter was his stepdaughter, to him, she was even more precious than his own life. At this time, the gang starts to livestream, reporting on the incident. The child that the gang just rescued is the only son of a member of their organization. Someone used the child as a hostage, threatening the gang member to eliminate Anne. Right now, the child has been successfully rescued and safely handed back to the police. As for the words that Jae-yoon just said, they're all lies. People are asking how she knows this. Because she is that stepdaughter who is more important than life itself. That was just mentioned. Ever since she was little, Jae-yoon had always kept her by his side. He had arranged for her to work at the infirmary of the prison camp. Jae-yoon, just for his own pleasure, tortured, toyed with, and even eliminated the prisoners in the camp. Except for Berlin, no one dared to stand up to resist. She and Berlin fell in love. After Jae-yoon learned of this, he planned to eliminate the two of them. In order to save her, Berlin launched a riot. A person like him is able to participate in the summit as a peace advocate? The thing more ridiculous than this is that the person who invited Jae-yoon was Senator Kim, a candidate for the position of president. He used Nairobi's son to threaten her, ordering her to eliminate Anne. How can a person like this be worthy of the position of president? What economic cooperation? What unification and peace? What is building a happy life for the people of the two Koreas? It's all lies. This summit is just an opportunity for them to profit. What is money anyway? It's just paper. It's something that the Royal Mint can print at any time. If they decide to print so much money, then the people who will take advantage of this money are the senator and his people. That's why the gang must stop it. Because this house of paper should originally belong to the public, not to just one person. As soon as she finishes speaking, public opinion once again shifts. The public begins to suspect the purpose of this summit. With this move, the gang has completely won. Berlin has just entered the Royal Mint when he immediately collapses to the ground due to a lack of physical strength. As for how much time Berlin has left, Seeum also doesn't know. In her heart, Anne feels extremely disappointed. Nairobi tells her that she doesn't need to be afraid. All of this has been carefully planned by Berlin. As for why Anne is implicated, she'll understand later. However, Nairobi can guarantee that no matter what happens, it won't harm Anne. She's the one who planted that bomb, but she was also forced. There was nothing she could do because Kim used her son to threaten her. Anne originally didn't believe what Nairobi said, but after thinking it over, she finally chose to believe. Meanwhile, Wu Jin has taken the child back to the orphanage and has dispatched police to protect the nearby area. Having also lost track of the professor, Wu Jin can only follow the arrangements of the higher-ups, returning home to rest. At the same time, Berlin and Rio are confiding in each other. For what Berlin said about the public, Rio has no interest. He's also not excited about the purpose of why he joined this plan. He only needs money. He can't help but advise Berlin not to implicate them, and especially not to ruin the professor's plan. In reality, Berlin risked his life to enter the Royal Mint in order to be able to complete the plan. If they can successfully build the image of a political prisoner, then they'll be able to pave the way for their future escape. If the police believe that their purpose is to prevent the summit, then after Si-Yum and Hin reveal their identities, the police will assume that they have their own armed forces. Perhaps they'll launch a terrorist attack at the location where the summit is taking place. The group of senators will have to think of a way to create a wave of public opinion, intending to cover up the truth about the summit. However, after the revelations of their group, the people who know the truth will walk the same path, supporting them. At that time, that will be the best opportunity for them to escape. As for why they had to hide their brotherly relationship, it was to prevent the emergence of a traitor who would reveal the professor's identity. Actually, Berlin and the professor also only met each other not long ago. When they were young, their parents took the two of them to escape from North Korea, preparing to head south to treat Berlin. Unexpectedly, they were discovered by the North Korean police for illegally crossing the border. After a round of gunfire from the police, their mother passed away. They also managed to capture Berlin. Their dad and the professor were in the front and luckily escaped from North Korea. Many years later, the professor managed to find Berlin, his long-lost brother. Their dad had also passed away because of money. At that time, he heard that he could bring Berlin back from the prison camp, but it would require a lot of money. So, he chose to rob a bank. Unexpectedly, during the robbery, he was shot and killed by the police. The professor found Berlin, hoping that he could complete their dad's plan with him. That's why the two of them decided to carry out the robbery of the Royal Mint. At this time, Nairobi comes to report the situation. The hostages have been gathered. Rio doesn't understand what this means. Berlin tells him that it's to prepare to welcome Tokyo back. Then Berlin goes to the waiting hall and announces that if there are people who want to leave from here, he'll send them away. If there are people who agree to stay and continue to be hostages, then each person will receive compensation, 3 billion won. After the scandal of Kim and Jae-yun was exposed, the two of them were pushed to the forefront. But what the capitalists never lack is tricks. Very quickly, they were able to reverse the direction of public opinion, accusing the truths that the gang had just revealed of being false information. The purpose is to prevent North-South economic cooperation, defaming others, and whitewashing themselves. This technique is a bit time-consuming, but it has never been wrong. If the reputation has been maintained, then they must find a way to capture the gang. If something bad happens again, then the summit will probably be ruined. Before they can think of a solution, the gang has taken the next step. Berlin has live-streamed a phone call, conveying his wishes to everyone outside. All of their actions are in order to return the Korean peninsula, which is about to be stolen, back to the public. However, it's being turned black and white by some people with ulterior motives, using false words to cover up the truth. To help the people know which side is the just side, they have temporarily made a decision. At 3:00 p.m. tomorrow, they'll release some of the hostages. The command center, seeing the video, immediately interrupts the live broadcast. But it's too late. The recorded video has been forwarded by many people. They can only try to prevent it, minimizing the impact to the lowest level. The higher-ups are very troubled by this matter. Kim's fateful call has come again, requesting him to think of a way to handle this matter well. Don't let any news about the robbers continue to spread. However, if they want to prevent the gang from contacting the outside, then there's only one way. It's to cut off the communication network. But if they do that, the machines at the command center will fall into a state of paralysis. The situation at that time will be very passive. Anyone with a brain will definitely not do that. This attack from the gang makes it seem that the summit must be delayed. Kim raises both his hands in support, but the tycoons don't agree. If they just postpone the summit, then doesn't that mean what the gang said is true? Moreover, they spent so much money to elect him as president. The summit is the most important link. There absolutely can't be any mistakes at this time. So, the summit will still be held in 3 days as announced. As for the other things, they should think of a way to resolve it themselves. Berlin's choice to release some of the hostages also has its own considerations. First, he can increase the trust of the people, regaining the advantage in public opinion. Second, he can take this opportunity to help Tokyo return to the team. Releasing the hostages can just happen to provide cover for Tokyo. Although it's a bit dangerous, it's the safest way at the moment. Over here, the professor has stayed up all night to analyze the current situation and rebuild a completely new plan. Tokyo will stand out to represent him, relaying it to everyone. If the plan progresses smoothly, then all the members will safely escape. At the same time, Wu Jin has also woken up inside the hospital. Last night, she went to the coffee shop to find the professor. The two brushed past each other. Originally, she didn't plan to meet him, but Wu Jin suddenly fainted due to over-fatigue. The professor didn't have the heart to ignore her. After struggling internally, he got out of the car to observe the situation. While her mind wasn't clear, Wu Jin vaguely saw the professor. Then, she completely lost consciousness. When she woke up, she was already in the hospital. Wu Jin's mother and daughter are both staying by her side. The gang's agreement to release the hostages not only attracted the attention of netizens, but the hostages themselves are also conducting heated discussions. Some people agree to stay for the reward money of 3 billion. After all, this isn't a small amount of money. With this, they can reach the peak of their lives. Some people aren't fascinated by this money. They only want to quickly escape this dangerous place. Young Min is one of them, but the reason why he has this thought isn't because he's noble. It's because he doesn't know the reason why the gang is doing this. Giving them a bunch of money for no reason? Who would believe that they have a charitable heart? They definitely want to take this opportunity to stabilize them, using them to do bad things. If they do that, then they'll be fired by their unit for helping the gang. If it's serious, then they might be prosecuted. Having said so much, in short, isn't he suspecting that the gang won't keep their promise? Berlin can prove this to them. Helsinki carries 2 bags, walks over, and puts the money on the ground. Whoever wants it can take it at will. However, after taking it, they must stay here. But right now, there's a problem. It's useless to get the money. In the end, the police will investigate it. Berlin has already thought about this problem. That's why he has thought of a plan that benefits everyone. However, right now, he can't tell everyone to prevent the hostages from saying nonsense after leaving. What needs to be explained has been explained clearly. Right now, the gang needs to interview each person. They've promised to release the hostages unconditionally. Those who stay will be able to take the money first. But they shouldn't do that because there's nowhere to hide the money. Bringing it on their body is definitely not allowed. When they leave the Royal Mint, they'll be checked by the police. The best way is to wait until after this matter is over. Then, they'll quietly send packages to each person's house. The power is completely in the hands of the hostages. Do they want freedom, money, or physical freedom? It's up to them to choose. Those who choose to take the 3 billion will stand on the right. Those who choose freedom will stand on the left. Everyone hearing the command starts to act in turn. Very quickly, they've split into 2 factions. The choice of freedom occupies the majority. Young Min and Anne are a bit surprised. Unexpectedly, the 2 of them have chosen to stay. Young Min doesn't need to be said. He's definitely staying for the money. What about Anne then? Her dad is the ambassador. She definitely doesn't lack money. Perhaps even she doesn't know the reason. She purely wants to stay here, curious about what actions the gang will take next. If they've made a decision, then those who stay will continue to go to work. Denver and Mi-sun, who had just finished exercising intensely, appear at this time. My son doesn't need to be said. She'll definitely choose to stay. The intimate actions of the 2 have attracted Moscow's attention. He pulls Denver aside to ask about it. If he's already been discovered, then Denver doesn't need to hide it anymore. He frankly admits that he likes Mi-sun. After this matter is over, the 2 of them will get married. The 3 of them will live together happily. Moscow then advises his son to think carefully. What intentions do the hostages have for agreeing to be by the side of a robber? Could it be because you're handsome, rich, kind, and righteous? The reason why he's so reactive to this matter is that he himself has also experienced it before. Back then, when he robbed a bank, he fell in love with a teller who was also Denver's mother. She and Mi-sun were similar. They had both admitted that it wasn't for the money but for true love. However, after giving birth to Denver, she told Moscow to give her freedom. He doesn't want to see his son have to go through the same feeling of pain. That's why he advises him to quickly end this relationship. That way, it will be good for both of them. However, with such a tradition in the family, Denver can't break it easily. Meanwhile, after Wu Jin is discharged from the hospital, she goes straight to the coffee shop. Coincidentally, the professor is also here, packing up his belongings. This time, Wu Jin has come here to apologize to him. In the past, she suspected him for some reason, but on the other hand, Wu Jin's feelings for the professor were genuine. Even if she wants to end this relationship, she must say everything clearly, giving each other freedom and going their separate ways peacefully. The professor originally intended to just end it like that, but he still can't let go of Wu Jin. Wu Jin immediately runs outside to chase after Wu Jin, then decisively hugs her tightly. At this moment, the professor understands that Wu Jin has become an indispensable part of his life. The 2 return to the coffee shop, talking about their plans. Wu Jin wants to wait until she's on vacation. The 2 of them will travel together, going to the port city that he's always wanted to visit. The reason why the professor is in this place is that this is the city that his dad liked. The professor's dad also had Alzheimer's disease. Back then, he wanted to go, but he wasn't able to. Later, he gradually forgot about it. Speaking of this, someone suddenly calls the professor. He uses the excuse of having to take care of other matters, forced to say goodbye to Wu Jin. Then the professor goes to the secret base to find Tokyo. It's time to bring her back to the Royal Mint. Before leaving, Eom gives her a box of medicine, which is the medicine used to treat Berlin. At this time, outside the Royal Mint, it's very lively. Many people have gathered at the entrance since early in the morning, clamoring for the government to reveal the truth about the summit, returning a clean country to the people. However, they've all been driven away by the police. According to Kim's request, they will try their best to keep irrelevant people 300 meters away, only leaving behind some media outlets, strengthening military power, and evacuating people, causing everyone to feel very worried and nervous. With so many crowded and noisy people, it's easy to mix in. Right now, this situation is very unfavorable for Tokyo to mix into the Royal Mint. Rio is worried about her safety. He suggests that they temporarily pause this plan and find another solution. However, right now, if they cancel the release of some of the hostages, then it will definitely cause panic. Moreover, with Tokyo's personality, she won't easily give up this opportunity to act. Because the members of the team are all inside waiting for her to save them, she will risk her life to be able to get in here. If they cancel the release of the hostages, then that will be truly disadvantageous for Tokyo. So, no matter what happens, their plan must proceed as usual. Meanwhile, Denver listens to his dad's advice. He's planning to end his love relationship with Mi-sun so that she can escape along with the other hostages. However, Mi-sun isn't willing. She has set her eyes on him. No matter what anyone says, she won't let go. Denver has no other choice. To be good for both of them, he can only cruelly say a lot of excessive words to her. Mi-sun, angry, immediately slaps him. If you don't love me anymore, then let's go our separate ways. Mi-sun, without saying a word, directly turns around and leaves. Denver is also heartbroken, but he really has no other choice. At the same time, Tokyo is ready to depart. The professor is hiding in a high-rise building nearby, commanding the operation. This plan can only succeed. It can't fail. Inside the Royal Mint, the hostages have gathered. Mi-sun is also one of them. The time has arrived. The large door is opened. The entire process of this operation is being broadcast live. But before long, the signal is disconnected. People outside can't know the situation inside, but right now isn't the time to retreat. They must act according to the original plan, release the hostages. Outside the large door, the hostages all run to safety. Tokyo is also always ready to depart at any time. The opportunity has arrived. The professor immediately gives the order. Tokyo gets on the motorcycle and starts to depart. She speeds through the trees and heads straight to the Royal Mint with hundreds of drones escorting her from behind. Tokyo intentionally drives into a place with many hostages to avoid being shot by the police. This is the time for the snipers to unleash their skill, but unfortunately, there are too many drones. The first shot misses. The members, seeing this, immediately fired to provide cover and create panic. Mi-sun, having only gone halfway, already feels regret. Taking advantage of the chaos, she turns back to the Royal Mint. Denver, afraid that something will happen, hurriedly comes forward to protect her. Tokyo also accelerates, speeding into the Royal Mint. A sniper shot hits the wheel of her motorcycle. Her center of gravity is unstable. Tokyo almost falls. Luckily, Rio appeared in time, saving her life. The door of the Royal Mint has closed safely. The plan is progressing smoothly, but while everyone is very happy, Moscow drags his injured body into the bathroom. It turns out that he was shot while protecting his son Denver, but he didn't tell anyone. Wu Jin is on the way back when she suddenly remembers something. Just now, when the professor mentioned his dad, he said that he also had Alzheimer's disease. This single word also has caused Wu Jin to become suspicious of him. This says that the professor knew that Wu Jin's mother had the illness. That's why he unconsciously used the word also to talk about it. Wu Jin hurriedly returns home to ask her mother. Whatever important things she has, she will write down in a notebook. However, that night, when she saw the professor, the situation was very urgent, so she didn't have time to write it down. Right now, she also can't remember what happened that day. This clue is very important. Wu Jin has told her mom to try to remember it carefully. She can only try her best to remember. It seems that she had seen the professor here before. Then, Wu Jin suddenly called. As for exactly when, she can't remember. Wu Jin checks the call history. The time is a bit coincidental. It was after Captain Cha called her. She doesn't dare to believe it. Could it really be like what Captain Cha had said? Does the professor's identity really have a problem? Carrying the feeling of suspicion, Wu Jin goes to the police station. That day, Captain Cha had come here to check the fingerprints. At the same time, he also printed out some personal documents. After Wu Jin sees it, she's very stunned. The photo is indeed of the professor, but his name is Sun Ho. Because he has ascended to heaven, his household registration has been cancelled. In the remarks, it's written very clearly that this person was eliminated while escaping from North Korea. His dad, mom, and younger brother have disappeared. Meanwhile, Captain Cha, who is being held, is using the opportunity while the guard isn't there. He's preparing to carry out his escape plan. Captain Cha has cut off his finger and escaped, using a screw that fell on the ground to unlock the handcuffs. Before leaving, he doesn't forget to check inside a barrel. There are explosives inside. A part of it is stored inside this. The group of professors returns to the base after completing the mission. They discover that someone has touched this barrel. At this time, they realize that Captain Cha has escaped. Several of them split up to chase. In the end, the four of them manage to catch up and surround Captain Cha at a crossroads where there isn't a soul in sight. Seeing that he can't escape, Captain Cha decisively uses a special trick, accepting to be rammed by the oncoming car, falling and rolling on the ground. At the same time, after Tokyo is reunited with everyone, she immediately starts to relay the professor's plan. The summit will be able to be held sooner. If there aren't any surprises, it'll probably be tomorrow. At that time, they need to leave this place. The professor's original plan was 9 days. Moscow's main task is to dig an escape route, digging from the inside to the outside. The professor will also find someone to help dig from the outside to the inside. So, how will they transport the money? 4 trillion in cash isn't a small amount of money at all. The professor plans to transport it using a rubber boat. It's estimated to be completed in about 2 hours. Outside the base, there will be a large truck waiting. The day of the move will be the day when the summit is held at the Peace Hotel near the base. Although the level of security is extremely high, the professor has absolute certainty. Everyone will know that the real robbers aren't them. From there, everyone will gather at Peace Square, causing huge chaos, creating an opportunity for them to escape. Now, with the summit being held sooner than their plan, they also have to change accordingly. It doesn't matter if there's less money. The important thing is that the escape route still hasn't been dug out. However, there's no need to argue about this. Once the summit ends and the representatives of the two sides sign their names, they won't care about public opinion anymore. They'll directly send people in. What's urgent right now is to dig out the escape route. So, they need to dispatch everyone to go dig. Rio suddenly asks a question. The communication being cut off in Oslo's death, these are all things that the professor couldn't have foreseen. The summit being held sooner is also the same. Rio is worried that there will be things that the professor can't foresee. However, Tokyo believes in the professor's judgment. Rio again asks a question. What if the professor is planning other things behind their backs? For example, hiding their brotherly relationship with Berlin, knowing that Berlin has an illness, but still letting him lead the team? Berlin is a former prisoner of a concentration camp, while the professor is someone who escaped from North Korea. These two are clearly plotting another plan. It's definitely not for money. They also don't care about the lives of everyone. Tokyo can only say that risking your life to do something doesn't mean wanting to die. It means that this matter is extremely meaningful. Even if you die, you won't regret doing it. This isn't a concept. At the same time, Denver has found his dad inside the bathroom. Seeing a pool of blood on the ground, he immediately becomes worried, hurriedly carrying him out to give him first aid. Moscow is still the main force digging the escape tunnel. Captain Cha has learned of the location of the base. He has also escaped from the professor's control. The matter has once again developed beyond the professor's expectations. The plan can never keep up with the changes in reality. At this time, Berlin has no choice but to step forward. He has used Mi-sun as a hostage, requesting the police to dispatch a medical team here. Kim doesn't agree. If they want to be treated, then they have to bring the injured person out. With no end in sight to the negotiations, Berlin has no choice but to take Mi-sun back inside. Kim's personality is very sinister. He doesn't even ask if the injured person is a hostage or a gang member. What if that person is a hostage? Then how will they explain it to the people? Meanwhile, the professor has dispatched someone to the hospital, finding out that the floor that Captain Cha is on is full of police. It's basically impossible to approach. Si-yoon then suggests using Woo-jin. This is the most stable method at the moment. Coincidentally, right at this time, Woo-jin also calls, saying that her car, unfortunately, broke down on the road, asking the professor to help her. He immediately nods in agreement. Looking at Woo-jin's expression, the professor knows that this trip of his will probably be a one-way journey. At the same time, with how bad the situation is, Rio has completely collapsed. He no longer trusts the professor. He even constantly instigates everyone to abandon the professor. Looking at Oslo's ending and Moscow's current situation, whoever is thinking of themselves will be the next one to fall. Helsinki is a little angry after hearing what Rio said, but Moscow would rather die than bow his head. He'll try his best to resist until the end. Either he escapes with everyone, or he dies in this place. There's absolutely no third possibility. Instead of being sad and arguing with each other here, they should seize the time to go dig out the escape route. Denver immediately stands up, asking Mi-sun to help take care of his dad. Then, he pulls Helsinki, who has the strongest physical strength, and the two of them set off. In reality, Tokyo is also very confused right now. She doesn't know if she should continue to trust the professor. Of course, she has to trust him. Although there are a few things that are beyond expectations, the summit being held sooner is true. Kim is anxious to resolve this matter, so he has suggested that they want to move the summit to tomorrow. The agreement was drafted long ago. They only need to sign it once, and all the problems will be resolved easily. After doing this, he'll immediately hold a press conference. Unfortunately, the communication with the outside world from the Royal Mint has been cut off, so they don't know this. They can only continue to persevere in a pessimistic and depressed mood. Meanwhile, the professor goes to find Woo-jin, gently reaching out to touch the gun behind her back. Then, he naturally gets into the car. She says that she wants to go to the hospital to visit Captain Cha, also intentionally revealing some news. Captain Cha was very seriously injured and hasn't woken up yet. On the surface, Woo-jin seems very calm, but inside this calm exterior is a storm that's brewing. The professor has taken Woo-jin to the hospital. He says that he'll wait for her in the car. After Woo-jin gets out of the car, the professor falls into deep thought. Unexpectedly, Woo-jin once again returns, asking the professor if he wants to go up there with her. It's completely in line with his wishes. However, the professor doesn't know that this is a trap. The police have already set up an inescapable net here. The two of them enter the ward together. Woo-jin introduces the situation to the professor perfunctorily. Before, Captain Cha betrayed the organization and revealed information to the robbers. Then, he was pursued by the robbers. It seems that he has grasped a secret that the gang doesn't want to be revealed. As for who the gang is, they'll know after he wakes up. Woo-jin has just spoken to this point when the professor asks her when he'll wake up. Woo-jin also isn't clear on this. She needs to go talk to the doctor for a bit, telling the professor to stay here and wait for her. As soon as Woo-jin leaves the ward, she immediately informs the support team to get ready. In reality, before coming here, the professor had prepared himself with the mentality of one trip without return. In the hospital, there are police everywhere. Once he takes action, it'll probably be very hard to escape. However, for the safety of everyone and for the plan to be able to progress smoothly, he has to take this risk. Even if he's captured in the end, it's okay. Their plan's success is the most important thing. At this time, with no one else in the ward, it's the best opportunity to act. The professor has taken out a syringe. As he's preparing to act, Woo-jin suddenly turns back. The professor has no choice but to put the syringe away. Woo-jin pretends to put on a sad face. She went to find the doctor to ask about the situation. Captain Cha's head was seriously injured. If he is to regain consciousness, there needs to be a few days of observation, and if he wakes up, there's no guarantee he can speak. As the robbers injured Captain Cha, Woojin said to the professor that she hated that she couldn't catch those robbers since she was off the investigation team. As the professor heard, he pulled Woojin closer and hugged her, comforting her. What Woojin was waiting for was this hug. This was a good opportunity to install a tracking device on him, with acting skills so superb that even the professor didn't realize that anything was amiss. If Captain Cha couldn't wake up temporarily, then the professor wouldn't be in a rush to eliminate him. They would wait until the summit ended, then they could safely escape. Woojin uses the excuse that she has private matters that she needs to handle, telling the professor to go back first. This trick of hers is to deceive him, using the professor to capture the entire gang and prevent their plan. In addition, the professor deceived her feelings, and he will have to pay a well-deserved price. The professor has just left when Woojin and her colleagues start following closely behind. Seeing that the professor's direction seems to be heading towards the place where the summit is being held, could it be that he wants to carry out a terrorist attack? They have to catch the person first, then they'll know. Woojin doesn't have the right to interfere in this matter. She can only ask her colleagues to request assistance. She will take responsibility for all the consequences. Very quickly, the assistance team has gathered with them, going to the place that the professor is heading towards. They follow the location, going to a high-rise building and finding the professor's car on the first floor. But there's only the car and no sign of the person. Perhaps the professor has already entered the building. Woojin leads the assistance team to search the building everywhere, but they still don't see the professor. They only discover a chair in the middle of the room with the professor's outer coat hanging on it. It seems that they have been played for fools. After the professor left the hospital, he told Si-yum about Captain Cha's condition. At the same time, the professor also learned something. Before, he had attached a tracking device to Woojin's car. The tracking device shows that Woojin is following his route. This unexpected situation is completely beyond the professor's expectations. He starts to search all over the car, but he doesn't see a tracking device. In the end, the professor finds it on himself. This is how the dramatic scene that happened later appeared. Because Woojin acted on her own, it caused the professor to escape. This matter made the higher-ups very unhappy. Adding the fact that Woojin and the professor have an unclear relationship, it can't help but make the higher-ups feel suspicious. It was Woojin who intentionally let the professor escape. Originally, she was only withdrawing from the investigation team, but now it's good. She has caused no small amount of trouble. It's impossible not to suspend her from her duties. Meanwhile, Denver is still working non-stop, desperately digging out the escape route, only hoping that the plan can progress smoothly so that he can take his dad out to be treated. Although Rio doesn't trust the professor anymore, he still needs to preserve his life no matter what. So, he has gone to relieve Denver, also advising him not to rely on the professor for everything. The fate of their lives must be grasped in their own hands. He is a person, not a god. He can't possibly predict everything. Denver disdains Rio for digging the tunnel too slowly, so he throws himself in to dig together. At this time, the two of them still don't know that their teammates are very close to them, close enough that they can even hear their voices. The teammates loudly yell. Finally, they receive a response from the two. After the two sides connect, their hearts that were hanging in the air have finally dropped. They have been rescued. At the same time, Woojin has been suspended from her duties, but she's not idle at all. She carefully sits down to study the map. The place where Captain Cha had the accident is in this place. After the professor left the hospital, he drove in this direction, saying that the gang's base is located between these two places, or it's near where the accident happened. Woojin's mom suddenly interjects, saying that a shopping center has recently opened nearby. It must have been installed with a lot of cameras. Thinking of this, Woojin hurriedly puts on her coat and goes out. Inside the Royal Mint, Moscow's wound has been delayed in treatment. At this time, he has persevered to his final limit. It seems that he can't continue anymore. After Tokyo saw that, she immediately told Mi-sun to go get Denver. Over here, Denver is still working hard, digging the tunnel. He can barely see a sliver of light. Mi-sun has brought bad news to him. She tells him to quickly go back and see his dad one last time. Denver immediately knows that something has happened to his dad. At this time, Moscow has woken up, but he's still a bit out of it. He has mistaken Tokyo for his wife. He feels extremely guilty for causing Denver to become someone like him, having to go through a life of uncertainty and wandering. Tokyo feels that Moscow has raised Denver to be a very good person, very calm and responsible. Speaking of this, Denver suddenly rushes into the room, seeing his dad's haggard and gaunt appearance. He can't hold it in anymore, and tears stream down his cheeks. He tells him that the tunnel has been dug through. Very soon, they'll be able to escape. Moscow hears this news, and he feels very relieved in his heart. He tells Denver to love and protect Mi-sun well. Then, he doesn't forget to thank everyone. Luckily, they had everyone's care and tolerance towards the two of them. That's how the two of them were able to live so comfortably. He has also never regretted joining this big family. Although introducing himself now seems a bit late, it's not considered too late. His real name is Mansik. As soon as he finishes speaking, he officially departs from this world. Everyone feels extremely saddened by this matter. However, now isn't the time to be sad and lamenting. They need to escape from here and return to live their own lives. Before joining the professor's plan, they didn't know each other at all. They even hated each other. But right now, they're just like one family, extremely in sync and understanding each other implicitly. Although at first, everyone had their own reasons for needing money, those things are no longer important. From now on, they need to work together to escape from this place. Very quickly, the day of the summit has arrived. Many people have gathered before the entrance of the auditorium. Among them, there is a portion of people who support the gang's cause, demanding that the summit be cancelled, returning the truth to the people. The professor has also arrived at the scene, but he's only hiding in a dark corner, quietly observing the situation. The higher-ups have reported to Kim about the professor's identity being exposed. He only gives a faint smile, not expressing any opinion. However, Kim is still very concerned about the matter that happened at the Royal Mint. The summit is just a formality on the outside. They just need to sign their names once, and all the problems will be resolved easily. After doing this, they'll immediately use measures to suppress the gang. In addition, he doesn't forget to remind them of one thing. This operation isn't about chasing down, it's about eliminating the entire group. It seems that he has no intention of keeping anyone alive. After the professor learns of the situation at the auditorium, he turns back to the base, not knowing that waiting for him is actually a confrontation with his old flame. Although Woojin says on the surface that this place has been surrounded, the professor knows very well in his heart that Woojin has only come here alone. Otherwise, she would have directly led people to capture him, not standing in this place wasting her breath. Leaving other things aside, Woojin only wants to know the purpose of why he's doing this. The professor's dad was an architect. He received orders from the government to participate in a secret mission, which was to block off an abandoned tunnel after the Cold War. His dad followed the instructions correctly, but he left one place unblocked out of selfishness because his dad knew that Berlin's illness couldn't be cured in North Korea. However, before they could even set off, they were discovered by the government. His entire family had to escape in the night. As a result, they were separated when crossing a river. Later, he learned that his mom had been shot and killed. Berlin was captured and kept in a prison camp. If they wanted to save him, they would need a lot of money. His dad had no other choice but to run off to rob. As a result, he unfortunately passed away. At that time, the professor then felt that all of these things originated from the division of North and South Korea. However, the truth isn't like that. It's because of those traitors and collaborators. They're holding what's called a summit, not at all for the sake of accelerating unification or economic cooperation, but to use that opportunity to make a lot of money for themselves. Capital flows are all for the purpose of creating profit. If the country can guarantee that benefit, then it can accelerate the implementation of unification, and large companies are using quantitative easing policies as financial leverage to maximize benefits. For them, this is a parallel relationship. The reason why the professor knows this so clearly is that the person who proposed this plan was he, and the person implementing this plan was O of the 5-star group, along with Kim, who has received his support. They're the ones who are lining their own pockets, the ones who are ultimately responsible for the fact that the two Koreas can't be unified. That's why the professor has planned all of this. Escaping with the money that they secretly printed, he'll distribute a portion of what belongs to him in the city center. As long as they search for the serial numbers on those bills, the people will be able to realize that what he's saying is the truth, and what he's doing is also a righteous action. Even if he has to die, it's okay, but he can't let the truth continue to be covered up like this. Hearing these words, Woojin is a bit shaken. At the moment of slight distraction, the professor immediately grabbed the gun from her hand. He tells her one sentence, "I'm sorry." Then he decisively pulls the trigger. After dealing with Woojin, the professor quickly goes to the tunnel. In order to alleviate his sad mood, he personally goes to dig the tunnel. After only digging for a bit, he successfully meets Denver on the other side. His joyful mood can't be put into words. However, right now, they don't dare to delay any longer. The professor successfully enters the Royal Mint through the tunnel. After exchanging joyful greetings with everyone, Tokyo takes him to see a pile of paper money that has been printed. While they're immersed in joy, the situation that the professor was most worried about has occurred outside the Royal Mint. Captain Cha has woken up. The summit is also gradually coming to an end. In reality, the professor didn't harm Woojin at all. He only aimed a shot at her stomach because he knew that Woojin was wearing a bulletproof vest. To keep her from doing anything to block his path, he handcuffed Woojin. At this time, the higher-ups have received the instructions, immediately gathering all the troops, preparing to attack the Royal Mint. In reality, transporting the money is taking longer than expected. Tokyo and Rio have piled up desks and chairs before the large door. Unexpectedly, a helicopter suddenly appears on the roof. A large number of special forces police suddenly break in through the window, entering inside. The two sides immediately start a very intense shootout. Right now, the money still hasn't been transported. What the two of them need to do is to drag out the time as much as possible. Along with the large door of the Royal Mint being opened, the special forces waiting outside enter one after another. The firepower is too strong. Relying only on Tokyo and Rio, they can't hold out. Nairobi then leads people to assist. Denver then instructs the hostages to go down to the tunnel to escape. Then, he hurriedly runs over to lend a hand under the cover of Rio. Tokyo has received a heavy machine gun, forcing the police forces to be forced to retreat. However, what they didn't expect was that behind them, someone was aiming a gun at them. The first shot has aimed at Tokyo. Luckily, she was wearing a bulletproof vest. However, right after that, there's another shot aiming directly at the place where there's no bulletproof vest covering. Tokyo is shot and falls to the ground. Just when the third shot is preparing to ring out, Denver has finally appeared in time. Nairobi, seeing Tokyo lying on the ground, can't help but feel angry. She constantly shoots at the glass door above. Berlin also hurriedly comes to lend a hand, using a heavy machine gun to suppress it. Denver is still dueling with that police officer. At this time, Helsinki has appeared, raising the barrel of his gun straight to the police officer's head. Denver seems calmer, resolutely adhering to the path of not harming people, advising Helsinki not to get emotional. While arguing, the police officer suddenly pulls his head covering down. Unexpectedly, it's Chul Wu. Seeing that he intends to counterattack, Denver hurriedly steps forward to stop him. He says that he'll take care of it here, advising Helsinki to quickly go support everyone else. At this time, Tokyo, who had fallen to the ground, has woken up. The two of them, not caring about personal feelings, immediately join the battle. Over here, Denver is extremely confident, but he's unexpectedly overturned by Chul Wu. Just when he's preparing to shoot and eliminate Denver, a bullet suddenly flies over, hitting his hand directly. Looking again, they discover that the person who was shot was unexpectedly Misan. However, after all, she's a newbie. Her experience and everything else can't compare to him. Just when she looks towards Denver, Chul Wu immediately shoots back. Luckily, Denver is quick and agile. With just a stick, he has knocked him down to the ground, unconscious. The battle before the door of the Royal Mint is also extremely tragic. The smoke is thick. The battle between the two sides has temporarily stabilized the situation. At the same time, the summit has also ended. Kim gets into the car and leaves. Outside, a lot of people are gathered, demonstrating, clamoring, and demanding that Kim reveal the truth about the summit, returning a clean country to the people. Some people are even throwing eggs at Kim's car. This matter makes Kim extremely embarrassed. All of this was caused by the gang. He immediately orders his subordinates to kill them all, not leaving any alive. With the order having been given, the special forces immediately frantically counterattack. They quickly spray tear gas. Tokyo's group is forced to retreat. Chul Wu has reunited with his teammates. He immediately leads people to search down the tunnel. This place has a very deep pit, but after entering inside to check it out, it's not the gang but the hostages wearing masks. After hearing that this place is a dead end, Chul Wu then realizes that he has fallen into a trap. The real exit is inside the vault. The people who needed to leave have all left. Chul Wu stares at the door that has been locked shut. He can only let out an angry roar, ordering everyone to quickly think of a way to open it. Rio, Denver, Tokyo, and Misan have all reunited with the professor. Nairobi and Helsinki, these three people are still in the back. After blowing up the pathway, they'll come here. The professor decides that they will depart first. Seeum is stunned. She's a little worried about Berlin. Meanwhile, Woojin on this side has managed to escape. Then she stops a car that's driving on the road, borrowing the person's phone to contact the command center, requesting the higher-ups to quickly send people here. At this time, Captain Cha has appeared. He goes over to take the phone, saying that he has already dispatched people there. Seeing that Woojin is free with nothing to do, he starts to wander around and then accidentally discovers a tunnel. Woojin hurriedly goes down to check on the situation. At the same time the team going after Berlin is having problems, the detonator has suddenly malfunctioned. Helsinki has no choice but to hurriedly repair it. Seeing that the vault door seems like it won't be able to hold out for much longer, Berlin tells the two of them to go first. Then he sets up a simple fortress, preparing to fight until the final moment. After all, he's someone who's about to die. To be able to depart in such a valuable way is also good. Nairobi is a bit unwilling, but right now isn't the time to linger. In the end, she was forcibly pulled away by Helsinki. At this time, the special forces have also arrived, preparing to enter the tunnel that Woojin has discovered. The professor has contacted the person who is coming to pick them up. After learning that the outside has been surrounded by the police, unable to enter inside, right when he doesn't know what to do, Berlin suddenly calls. Although they know that this phone call will definitely be eavesdropped on, they still need to call. Right now, with this situation, there's nothing that can be hidden anymore. The detonator has malfunctioned. Berlin is still in the back. He's making this phone call just to say goodbye. The situation on the professor's side is also extremely unstable. The base has been surrounded by the police. Their plan has failed. Just as the vault door is about to be breached, Berlin, our unpredictable and often ruthless leader, suddenly initiates an attack. The professor, ever the strategist, desperately tries to stop him, yelling, "Stop! It's over! We've lost! If you keep fighting, there's only one way this ends." But Berlin is unyielding. He refuses to give up. How can he face Oslo and Moscow, who sacrificed everything, without a proper explanation? How can he honor their memory if they give up now? He thinks of the two who died for the mission. Berlin has a flashback. Before their deaths, Oslo and Moscow had immense faith in the professor, and Berlin couldn't betray that trust. Never forget the lives that trusted you until the very end, he thinks. He knows he must prevail. Until the very last moment, he thinks, we are not allowed to give up. After a heartbreaking cry of brother, Berlin unleashes a full-blown assault. Chul Wu, showing no mercy, hurls a grenade directly inside. Luckily, Berlin survives, narrowly escaping death thanks to Seeum's quick thinking. But Berlin doesn't want to leave. Someone has to stay behind to provide cover. Berlin is not giving up. If he refuses to go, then Seeum won't go either. If you want to go crazy, we'll go crazy together. If you want to die, we'll die together, they say to each other. Seeing the police closing in, Seeum aims carefully at a bomb, gifting them a huge surprise. The professor, unaware of the specifics, can only collapse to the ground, weeping in agony. After regaining his composure, he connects with Kim's phone. The professor haltingly admits his mistakes, begging Kim to spare them. The money can be returned, the lives can be surrendered, but I have only one request. I am on my knees, begging and praying you let the others walk away. At that moment, Tokyo bursts in and snatches the phone from the professor's hand. Kim's attitude remains unchanged. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. He isn't moved by anyone's pleas. The professor is still drowning in guilt. He wants to use his own life to guarantee the safety of everyone. But Tokyo refuses to accept that. She forcibly drags him away. She pulls with all her might, but she can't move the professor. The professor looks down at the map that has fallen into a puddle. Suddenly, a new idea strikes him. The professor quickly rushes to regroup with everyone, preparing for the final battle. At that same time, Wu Jin, who was lost in the tunnel, has been captured. The special forces immediately report this to Kim. He orders them to bring Wu Jin to the command center. Meanwhile, he's studying the tunnel map, preparing to attack from all sides. They're gradually moving inward, cutting off all escape routes for the professor. Wu Jin is brought back to the command center, feeling deeply unwilling. Just when they were about to capture the professor, she was forcibly brought back. Wu Jin knows what Kim is planning. Eliminate the witnesses, destroy the evidence, and erase all traces. He's already labeled her as an accomplice of the professor. But before he can decide how to deal with her, news arrives from the front lines. They've discovered numerous bombs and explosives everywhere, almost all of them very close to Peace Square. Kim suddenly realizes the truth. This is the professor's real plan. They're going to detonate the bombs in crowded Peace Square, causing mass casualties and chaos, and use the opportunity to escape. Wu Jin is the first to disbelieve. The professor always adheres to the principle of not harming people, so he could never cause such a large-scale tragedy. Kim laughs. You're too naive. Not harming people is just an excuse to buy time. If they really didn't want to hurt anyone, why would they install so many bombs? Why did they release you? It's all a distraction. But Wu Jin still doesn't want to believe it. Kim, seeing her as a nuisance, immediately orders his subordinates to take her back into custody. His superiors suggest evacuating the civilians first to minimize casualties. But Kim refuses. What if the robbers blend into the crowd and escape? Not only are they not evacuating, but they're sealing off the entire area. Not even an ant can escape. It's just a few bombs. Send people to defuse them. If they can't avoid the explosion, then let Peace Square become the robbers' graveyard. So, what about the civilians and the officers? Will they die along with the robbers? This is a question that Captain Cha cannot accept. He immediately drives to find Wu Jin. Kim only wants to eliminate all witnesses and has no humanity. Wu Jin hopes that Captain Cha can join forces with her and bring a perfect end to this case. At this time, the superiors can no longer tolerate Kim's behavior. They issue an order to evacuate all the people in the square. All those who still have humanity listen to their orders, completely ignoring what Kim said. The countdown is about to end. The bomb actually explodes, but unexpectedly, its power is ridiculously small. It's only enough to blow up a manhole cover. Then, little piggy banks slowly float into the sky. After reaching the highest point, they unexpectedly explode. Inside is all the money. A rain of money immediately falls over the entire square. Everyone's faces are filled with smiles. All the attention is focused on the money rain. The people forgot all their issues. This action has truly achieved a very high effect. Compared to the ruthless, harmful politician Kim, this action by the robbers receives even more support from the public. The professor leads everyone out of the tunnel. This reversal must be said to be extremely brilliant. At the same time, Wu Jin has also guessed the place where the professor is. It is the exit that her father left behind that year. Captain Cha takes action to help Wu Jin get released. The professor uses money to bribe the staff at the train station. All the money has been loaded into the trunks of the cars. After dealing with everything, Berlin calls, "He's not dead." Luckily, the money rain allowed him and Se-yum to escape successfully. The professor is now crying uncontrollably. Everyone who hears this news feels extremely excited. As it approaches departure time, the professor's mood is a bit complicated as he looks into the distance. He once revealed this place to Wu Jin, both afraid that she would come here to arrest him, but also afraid that she would not come here to be with him. In the end, he reluctantly takes one last look before turning around. But Wu Jin immediately appears in front of him. The others choose to stand by and watch without taking action. The train has started moving. The professor knows that Wu Jin can't let go, but wanting to arrest him also requires a reason. What crime can she arrest him for? That money, inside the mint, they can print as much as they want. He just tells everyone that the owner of the money is not the disgusting tycoons or the inhumane politicians, but belongs to the public. So, what crime has he committed? If deceiving Wu Jin can also be considered a crime, then he will admit this crime. How to deal with it will be decided by Wu Jin. The professor boards the train, waiting for Wu Jin to make the final choice. Wu Jin still doesn't have enough courage to shoot. In the end, she has to let the professor disappear into the black night. Everything that the professor did has been spread throughout the world through the internet, becoming an idol in the hearts of countless people. Everyone wears red clothes and white masks, flocking to the streets to protest. Even with all the tactics and overwhelming power, this movement cannot be suppressed. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed. Wu Jin has had to face many things, such as divorce procedures, suspension from work for investigation, and interrogations that have not stopped for the past year. Her bank accounts have also been frozen. Wu Jin can barely afford her basic needs. Today, a famous lawyer comes to her. He wants to defend her regarding financial matters, so she doesn't need to worry. Someone has already paid him. Wu Jin immediately thinks of the professor. After returning home, she finds the business card the professor left behind. Then, Wu Jin goes to a foreign land, finding a nearby cafe. She was only hoping to see him, not expecting the professor to be actually there. She was ready to search forever, hoping to see him once, but he was here waiting for her. What's more, there's an even crazier plan waiting for her to join. Meanwhile, young Min has divorced and moved out. While moving his things, he finds a box that isn't his. He directly throws it to the ground, kicking it violently without knowing that this is the professor fulfilling his promise. Inside the box is full of cash. This version of Money Heist is over. Thank you for the view. Remember to like and subscribe.